Okay. Good morning. I'd like to now call the March 6, 2023 San Diego LAFCO meeting to order. And could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Commissioner Becker?
Present.
Commissioner Desmond?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson is absent. Commissioner Whitmore?
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Here.
Commissioner Willis?
Here.
Commissioner Vanderlyn is absent. Commissioner White?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner McCain?
Here. McCann, actually.
McCann? Thank you. Alternate Commissioner Vargas is absent. Alternate Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent. Alternate Commissioner Drake
Here.
is present. Alternate Commissioner Mathis?
Present.
There is a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I want to welcome a couple new commissioners that we have here today. As you heard, we have Mayor Dane White from the City of Escondido and also Mayor John McCann from the City of Chula Vista. I don't know, you want to give a 1-minute introduction or say hello?
Hello.
All right. Straight to the point. City of Escondido. I don't know. Can you top that, John?
The name's actually John McCann, not John McCain. I know during the winter time, Christmas time, there always that great movie called Die Hard, and so all my friends call me John McClane. But and they do it because my wife actually has a crush on Bruce Willis, but I always say I have better hair than him.
All right. Well, well, you get a hand for that. That's very good. Okay, Commissioner White, would you lead us, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please stand with us and raise the flag. Ready to begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. The first thing we're going to do is the agenda review. And under the agenda review, since we've got a big crowd here today and lots of speakers, I want to try to do things as expeditiously as possible. So what we're going to do is, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with the rest of the commission, is we, after the public comments on items not related to our items today on the agenda, that we go right into instead of the consent calendar, we go right into 6A, B, and C. I'm sorry, didn't take that back. Do 7A first, because that's going to reappoint Chair Mathis, or I'm sorry, Mr. Mathis. So we'll do 7A, and then we'll do 6A, B, C, then we'll do the consent, and then 7B, and then go back in the order. So I just want to make sure that we have time with the numerous speakers to get through the meat of it as quickly as possible today. So, Keen, do you have anything else under agenda review?
Hold on. No other changes on staff's end with respect to the agenda. I do have just 3 procedural items for the commission and our attendees. First, we did receive some supplemental correspondence for 7A and 6B. Copies of those, which were received at least before the close of business on Friday, were sent to the commission by email. They've also been posted online for those in attendance. We also, after a few false starts, are introducing our electronic voting system today by way of the handy handheld remote that every voting commissioner has before them, and it is assigned to your name. And so rather than any roll calls, when Chair Desmond is ready to take a action on a seconded motion, Commission Clerk Tammy Luckett will go ahead and open up the voting. We will wait for all 8 voting members to register their decision, and then Tammy will announce the close of the voting, and then the results will populate up on the screen. And just for some added intrigue, the votes will be kept under wraps until all votes are in. So again, that's a bit of a new system. There may be some learning curves. Staff is certainly here to help with those. And then finally, we are set up, of course, to take public comment today. If you're here with us in room 302 and you'd like to provide testimony, we would just ask that you fill out a speaker slip, which are presented right to the right of Carol Arrow Neiman. Fill that out, hand it off to Do, and Do will make sure that they make their way to the chair. And then if you are participating remotely, you too can participate in today's meeting either by direct testimony, video, phone, or even email comment. Just follow the instructions on our agenda cover sheet. So with that, Chair, we are good.
All right, thank you very much. I forgot to ask if there are any commissioners that are okay with the changing of the order of the meeting today? Changing the agenda? No. Any other commissioner comments about the agenda review or changes or updates?
Chair.
All right. Yes.
I'm sorry, I just need to make a correction for the record. Alternate Commissioner Mathis will vote in place of Commissioner Vanderline, who is absent.
Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Let's see. So let's move into our public comments. And so, anybody? Is there any public comments? Tammy, do we have any that are not on today's agenda?
None received.
Anyone all online or calling in?
No.
None? Okay, so we have none. Well, that's good. That's quick. So I'm going to take, if it's okay, we're going to take up item 7A. And 7A is basically a reappointment to reappoint Harry Mathis as the alternate public member to a new 4-year term. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to reappoint Mr. Mathis. We have a second from Mr. Willis. If there's any other discussion, do we have any public comment, Tammy, on this one on 7A?
We received 2 letters in support.
And just very quickly, Chair, so the letters of, one letter of support came from the San Diego Taxpayers Association for the reappointment of Commissioner Mathis, and then also Commissioner Mathis was kind enough to provide a statement reaffirming his interest for the record.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So we have a motion and a second. Let's try this new voting system out. Are we ready, Do? We're ready. All right. We'll see what happens. See if there's any smoke. All right. Push.
Just press once, and then Tammy will confirm when everyone has voted. We have 7 voting members right now with Mr. Anderson still to come.
All right, Harry, this is it. If this thing works for your reappointment.
No.
Just push A, B, or C. Christie, we're waiting for you.
Oh, I thought I pushed it. It said.
There you go, thank you. And then you can end it. It won't be on the screen this time.
Okay.
Next meeting.
We have 7 yeses and 0 opposed, so the motion passes.
Congratulations.
All right, Harry. There we go. All right. Thank you. You've done a great job. You're always here, and we appreciate your input. Okay, we're going to move on to the public hearings now, 6A, B, and C. We got 3 public hearings before us today. And I guess, Holly, I just want to make sure this, for any ex parte disclosure, if anyone had any ex parte communications, they need to disclose this now for all 3 of those items. Is that correct?
You can do it for all 3, or you can just take and have the disclosure in front of each one, your choice.
Why don't we do it in front of each one? Because 6B is a little bit different of an animal. So on the Borrego item, which is 6A, does any of the members have any comment or outside ex parte communications on 6A? This is a Borrego Springs Fire Protection District reorganization. Any commissioners need to report any ex parte communications? None. Good. Okay, so staff, why don't we go ahead, Keen, item 6A, is there a presentation or
Thank you. I'm
update
going to
on this?
ask Carol Arrow Neiman to provide the staff presentation.
make sure the thing's on. Okay. Good morning, commissioners, and welcome to our 2 new members. My name is Carol Aramieman, analyst here with San Diego LAFCO. Before the commission is a proposal that we received from the Borrego Springs Fire Protection District, which seeks LAFCO's approval today to legally transfer fire protection and the related public safety services within the Borrego Springs community. As detailed in the agenda report, the proposal is a byproduct of a negotiated handoff and necessitates the following actions by the commission. The first being to dissolve Borrego Springs Fire Protection District of its fire protection, emergency medical, and ambulance transport service functions. And secondly, to legally transfer these 3 active service functions to the San Diego County Fire Protection District as a successor agency via a concurrent annexation. The stated purpose of the request before the commission is to help economize fire protection and the related public safety services within the affected territory through the expanded resources of the San Diego County Fire Protection District, and in doing so add to the recent and purposeful history of coordinated consolidations in the unincorporated areas. To best orient the commission to the affected territory, on the screen is a map of the entire affected territory, which spans approximately 198,400 acres, or 310 square miles. To put this into perspective for you, the city of San Diego is roughly 325 square miles, so the affected territory is nearly equal in size to the city of San Diego. We also have found that there are just over 3,000 full-time residents, and by our count, 1,401 registered voters as of February of 2023. Can we go to the next slide, too? There is also the material topic of visitors to the area as a popular day and overnight destination to this part of the northwest edge of the Sonoran Desert, with the local chamber estimating that the daytime population can reach upwards of 10,000. Now, adding to this point, the territory is mostly desert landscape with a few remote small neighborhoods and is largely dedicated to the Anza Borrego State Park. In fact, 75% of the affected territory comprises state park territory. Next slide, please. Now, this next slide on the screen shows the Borrego Springs Fire Protection District's jurisdictional boundary as it relates to the San Diego County Fire Protection District boundary. And as you can see, it is adjacent on 3 sides. As for some background information surrounding the Fire Protection District for Borrego, it's an independent special district that was formed in the year of 1961 and has a current budgeted staff of 14 full-time employees, with one of them being administrative. And Mr. John Hardcastle currently serves as the fire chief. As for the district's financials, Borrego Springs Fire Protection District adopted an operating budget in 2022 of $2 million with an unassigned fund balance of approximately $1.3 million. This latter amount reflects an approximate 20% decline over the last 3 fiscal years. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, as detailed in the agenda report, the application includes a handful of negotiated terms between the 2 subject agencies, and as shown on the screen, include but are not limited to the following key conditions. The first being that the San Diego County Fire Protection District shall provide a full-time 3-person staffed paramedic fire engine and a full-time 2-person staffed paramedic ambulance at the Borrego Springs Fire Station, which is Station 91. Secondly, San Diego County Fire Protection District shall ensure Station 91 is a must-cover station. And last but not least, San Diego County Fire Protection District will ensure a battalion chief is assigned to oversee Station 91. The agencies have also agreed to a property tax exchange wherein 100% of the property tax revenues collected by Borrego Springs Fire Protection District shall transfer to the San Diego County Fire Protection District upon the effective date of the proposal, should the commission approve the item today. And we have found that the total property tax revenue collected annually is around $1.4 million. As for staff's analysis, the agenda report attests that the proposal is justified under both adopted policies and statute. This includes LAFCO's policy directive born from various municipal service reviews and follow-up actions in places like Julian, Palma Valley, and Ramona to encourage the consolidation of fire protection services in the unincorporated areas of San Diego County when the timing is right. And in this particular case, staff believes that the timing for this proposal is appropriate. Therefore, staff is recommending that the commission proceed to approve the proposal today as submitted, along with a conforming sphere amendment for the San Diego County Fire Protection District to include the entirety of the affected territory. I would also like to remind the commission that protest proceedings would apply should the commission decide to approve the proposal today, and it is further recommended that these be delegated to the executive officer as allowed under both policy and statute. And also, before I conclude my presentation, we do have a few representatives here from the subject agencies for any questions or comments that you might have for them. I also am available for any questions or comments. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, do any commissioners have any technical questions or questions of Carol Ann at all?
I do have a question. Carol Ann,
Yeah.
was that for the, I was just curious, Borrego Springs Fire Department, was that a unanimous vote to dissolve?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, actually, just clarification.
Couple of votes.
Yeah, so
What's that?
the Borrego was a 3-2 vote in favor of proceeding with the dissolution. And I know we have Chief Hardcastle and Council D'Souza here to go into those details.
So yeah, it was not unanimous on that, but by that entity. So we've got 3 speakers on this item, Paula D'Souza, and then Haney Hong, and then Mr. Meacham. Are you here to speak? Okay, good. Or just for questions?
We're just here, I'm here and Chief Hardcastle are here for any questions, so I just wanted to put that speaker slip in just in case I needed to.
Well, Chief Hardcastle, I guess, or you address the 3-2 vote? Yeah.
Good morning. The 3-2 vote was, it basically came down to 2 board members are very staunch about local control, and they didn't want to give up the local control. The 4 votes realized that there was no way that we could financially provide the level of protection that CAL FIRE was offering to us, or excuse me, the County of San Diego. There's no way we could offer a 3-man engine. We don't have the ability to have a chief officer on duty 24/7. So it was really a local control issue. There, any other questions?
Well, in your opinion, do you think this is a good thing for the residents of Borrego?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're getting better coverage level, we're getting more staffing, we're getting moved into a situation where we're guaranteed to get a cover engine when we're on an incident. Currently, we don't have that. When we're on an incident, the station is uncovered.
Do any other commissioners have any questions for anyone on this item? Well, this happens to be in my district, and this is seems to be a District 5 day today. But the the citizens of Borrego Springs, actually, they got together and they pushed for this effort to have County Fire come in and take over for the Borrego Springs Fire District, primarily financial reasons, and the better things that Tony Meacham and his crew are going to be able to bring and provide to the residents of Borrego Springs. So this was actually a community-led initiative that was brought forward. This is not the county trying to come in and take over. There was some dissension, and I'm all in favor of local control, but you got to have the means to do it. And so that was the issue there in Borrego Springs. So with that, if there's no other questions or comments, do we have anything else?
We have 2 more speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Haney Hong and Tony Meacham.
All right.
I just want to say thank you to the chief. Thank you.
Okay, I guess I thought they were all here just for answering questions, but that doesn't make sense. All right, go ahead, Tony.
Good
Chief.
morning, Commissioners. I'm here with Director Collins' staff and Chief Hardcastle. Strong support of the action in front of you. As stated, this actually started with a community stakeholder group. We attended a meeting of over 100 residents in the community who recognized that the long-term financial viability of Borrego Springs was not there. That was followed by what has been a very collaborative process with the board and Chief Hardcastle. All of the employees of Borrego Springs will be blanketed into state service as CAL FIRE employees. They will be credited for all of their years of retirement service, vacation, and everything else. And so in addition to that, the county is looking at long-term capital investments. We've already ordered 2 new ambulances for the district, along with a new fire engine, and we're in discussions with Chief Hardcastle as soon as the action is formalized about getting the fire station replacement on the county's capital improvement program. The facility does not meet modern essential services facilities, and I think that is one of the critical items that John and I have discussed as a community, just didn't have the ability to move forward with building a fire station. So strong support of the issue, and myself and all of our staff is here if there's any questions from any commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thanks for the, helping out in a smooth transition as this goes forward.
I have one
Yes.
other question.
Sure.
Keen, were the fees waived on this for this change?
Yes, LAFCO fees were waived by commission action back in December of '22.
Thank you. Haney.
Good morning, Chair Desmond and Commissioners. And I'm here, Haney Hong, President and CEO of the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, and we're in strong support of this consolidation. I think that we've learned through our history here in San Diego County that fire protection is a key public service that needs to be delivered effectively and efficiently. And unfortunately, I think Borrego Springs Fire Protection District, we also did an independent study started about 2 years ago financially where they're at and would not be able to sustain their continued operations. I think that the voters of Borrego Springs had to face either consolidation as one choice or increase parcel tax by 6 times, which I think would have been very challenging for folks with fixed income in the area. So we strongly recommend support and continued action. I think that you've heard a lot of people saying that this is a good thing to do. I think it will result in better services. I think it will also improve efficiencies across the county, especially if we face a regional fire risk in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Haney. Any other questions, comments, discussion from the commissioners? I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve item 6A for the, as presented by staff.
I will second.
All right, yeah. Mr. Whitburn, I'd give you that second on this one here. So we have a motion and a second in the discussion, so find your little beeper thing here, or voting mechanism. Oh, Joel, you weren't here for the instructions, but you got to figure it out.
I think so.
Okay, good.
You can cast your votes.
Please vote.
I don't want to go up in District 5.
Thank you, yeah, no kidding.
They're too quick. I'm telling you. It's not my fault.
We will
Early enough.
just once.
For item 6A, we have 7 in favor, 1 opposed. The 1 opposed is Commissioner Willis.
What happened?
So we will.
We have to redo it? What do you got to do?
We will redo to get the system right. This is part of the, the ebbs and flows of introducing a new system.
Don't use your whole thumb.
All right, so we're going to redo it.
Please recast your vote for item 6A.
If I push it 3 times, I'm voting for it.
There we go. We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Phew, so far so good, the new voting system. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6B. All right, this is the notice of amended administrative approval of Palmetto Healthcare District out-of-cert agency services. Do we have any members who have had any ex parte communications with either of the parties involved today? I'll just kind of go around the room. And Ms. Christie, have you start us off?
We're on 6B, I'm sorry, 6B you said?
Yeah, 6B,
Okay.
I apologize if I said the wrong one, 6B.
Yes, I did have a meeting with Tri-City board member Rocky Chavez, and Dr. Ma was there, and there was one other person on the Zoom call. And there he is in the back, and I'm sorry I forgot your name.
Aaron.
Aaron, thank you, yes. And I can find the date, I just didn't have it right in front of me, but that's all of my communication.
Joel, Mr. Anderson, Supervisor, do you have any? Okay.
I have met with Aaron also, and also conversations with Chris Brown.
Okay.
I spoke with Chris Brown and Diane Hansen from Palomar.
Okay. Mr. Whitman?
I've had substantive conversations with representatives from Tri-Cities as well as the mayor of Oceanside.
Just had a brief conversation with Chris Brown just before the meeting.
Okay. Mr. McCann?
I had a brief conversation last night with Chris Brown as well.
Okay, and I had multiple telephone conversations with Mr. Steve Dietland of Tri-City, also Rocky Chavez, also, and then from Palomar, conversations with Diane Hansen, also with Kristen Gaspar and Chris Brown. Also, I had a phone call just the other day with the mayor of Oceanside as well. Did I forget anybody? Because I think I had multiple telephone conversations, but I tried to only have it with the two, Palomar and Tri-City. So with that...
How far back are we going with conversations?
Well, I think since the last meeting.
Since the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, I haven't had it since the last meeting.
Is that correct, Holly? As far as since October?
Yeah, so we're talking about since October.
Oh, since
Right.
October.
Since the last meeting where this was on the agenda.
Okay.
So just, it's better just to put it out there and...
I gotta think who it was.
Oh, okay.
It was the CEO for Tri-City, Rocky Chavez, the chair, and Aaron, and I forgot his last name, he's administrator, external affairs. And.
Yeah, Isaac. Right.
Yeah, report.
Okay.
I think that's all.
Okay, good. So we've all had conversations with all the parties here, which I'm glad we got that out. So we'll move into item 6B. Keen, you have a presentation here.
Well, I do. Well, at least I'll go ahead and start us off with some opening thoughts on what has been certainly a unique and increasingly challenging item before the commission before I hand over the staff presentation to Carol again. And of course, the item itself, commission and attendees, is the administrative approval made for an out-of-agency service request for Palomar Healthcare District to provide laborist and OBGYN services to patients that are sourced to Vista Community Clinic and True Care Clinic, clinics that happen to have offices within the boundaries of Tri-City Healthcare District. Now, the commission will recall, at least for those who were with us in October, this is a returnee. At the time of the October meeting, staff presented our notice of approval as we're required to do under policy, and at that time, the commission certainly had a robust discussion on the dais, heard a lot of comments from attendees, and we were given some direction to revisit our administrative approval on a couple of fronts. And of course, that's exactly what we've done. Now, in the course of staff going about and re-examining this item, the topic really never strayed too far from the dais, given I believe at just about every consecutive meeting since October, you have heard in one way or the other commentary on this administrative approval from the podium. So that in of itself is some context to now staff returning to the commission today with notice of an amended approval, an amendment to our earlier administrative approval that Carol is going to detail in just a bit. And we're presenting that for information as required to under policy. Now, the item itself has been expanded into actionable form for purposes of your deliberations at the request of the chair to allow the commission to take other paths should the collective majority see fit. And again, Carol will go into what those options are. Staff is certainly ready to go into detail as needed, but this really is a discussion for the dais. Now, to help round out your deliberations, we've got a couple of members of the audience in the bullpen who are ready to assist the commission in your deliberations. We have consultant Adam Wilson, who at my request prepared his own analysis on the topic since October, and in particular the merits of my public health and safety finding, which to some degree is at the core of a lot of the discussion. Adam is here to address his memorandum as the chair sees fit. We also have the lefty, former Supervisor Greg Cox, in attendance today. Supervisor Cox was picked up the phone with the chair and agreed to facilitate a recent meeting between all of the parties back a few weeks ago, and can speak to his own observations of the core issues that are germane to this item. Okay? So that is my overview. I certainly expect to add some more as we go forward, but with the chair's blessing, I think Carol Ann can go ahead and provide a nice recap before you go into the details. So with that, I'll ask Carol Ann to take over.
So as mentioned by the executive officer, before the commission is a familiar topic for most of our members, at least those who were with us last October. My goal in this presentation is to provide a high-level refresher on the topic and subsequent activities. As for the item itself, it involves an out-of-agency service request retroactively filed by Palomar Healthcare District that was administratively approved by the executive officer and drew on a delegation power under LAFCO policy. The executive officer's authorization dates to August 2022 and allows Palomar to provide contracted laborist and OB/GYN services to patients sourced to 2 clinics, Vista Community Clinic and True Care Clinic, and their office locations in Vista, Oceanside, and Encinitas. The executive officer's authorization pertinently has been premised on finding necessary under both statute and local policy that the contracted services address and otherwise remedy a public health and safety threat. The specific rationale of the public health and safety finding ties to the clinic's financial hardships to otherwise provide services to their patients without partnering with Palomar. More specifically, and in the absence of the Palomar contracts, it is reasonable to conclude that the clinics would revert into financial distress and increasingly subject to unplanned closures, risking the health and safety of mothers and their children. Now, in bringing the Commission the original Notice of Administrative Approval as required under policy at the October 2022 meeting, much discussion followed on the dais, and a request was made for staff to revisit the topic on several fronts, including the ongoing merits of the public health and safety finding. As detailed in the agenda report, staff proceeded to take another look at the topic and did so with the help of our consultant, Adam Wilson, and drew on this additional review in coming to you today with the Notice of Administrative Approval to now term the approval to March 2025, and in doing so, tie explicitly to the length of the Palomar contract with True Care and a current accommodation for Vista Community. The rest of the administrative approval, and specifically the underlying public health and safety finding, remains and is discussed further in the memorandum provided by Adam Wilson, which has been attached to the agenda report for your review. Now, this amendment to the administrative approval does prompt staff to provide formal notice to you today. Our recommendation is that you simply receive the notice. This said, and at an earlier request of the chair, we have also identified 3 alternative actions for the Commission to consider should they better align with the collective preference of this membership. The Commission alternatives vary in scope to option A, letting the administrative approval stand, but providing the specific direction of future policy work. Option B, amending the administrative approval, and option C, overturning the administrative approval. Again, staff recommendation is to take no action, but any of these other options identified are certainly available to the Commission. And before I conclude my presentation, I would just like to reiterate that staff believes it is reasonable to make the necessary public health and safety finding that ties to the 2 clinics, A, financial stress, and B, related service level uncertainties for their clients that exist without contractually partnering with Palomar. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Carol Ann. We've got any questions of Carol Ann before we get going? I know it was kind of a quick update. Yes?
I just have a question for clarification. Is there, you indicated that the time has been extended to 2025 because of contract. Is there a subsequent, where'd you go? There you are. Is there a subsequent contract that, other than the one that we have in our packet, that was commenced on May 3rd, 2021 for a 3-year term? Is there a subsequent one?
Commissioner McKenzie, if I could answer through the chair, there is a amendment that was reached between, I believe, True Care and Palomar. However, our administrative approval is specific to the original agreement that goes through March of 2025. And I know we have representatives here, obviously from Palomar and True Care, who could speak to the amendment, but the amendment is not part of our discussion. And it's not part of the authorization.
I still don't know, I'm sorry, I don't understand where you're coming up with the 2025, if it's an amendment. The only one I have here is are the two that indicate that the contract is 3 years and it starts on May 3rd, 2021. So I'm confused as to how we get to that date.
Well, I empathize with the confusion. So I initially read that contract the same way, and that's when I initially had a March 24 term. However, it was raised, and we looked at the contract itself. The effective date of the contract was March of 22. So add the 3 years, March to 2025.
Where is that in the documentation?
I'd be happy to go through it as we take in public testimony and cite it.
Is that in here?
Yes, it is.
And that's part of the contract?
Yes, it is.
I can just quickly direct you. It's it's in the very first paragraph of both of the contracts where it talks about that the contract is made and entered into, so it will become effective as of March 1, 2022. That's the very first paragraph on page 1 of the contract itself.
Okay, because all I see is in October, they entered into a contract on October of 2025. Okay.
Well, there was 2 contracts.
But they're exactly the same.
But one of them expires, I guess, in March of 2025. The other one expires October of 2024. But our executive officer's recommendation is that we acknowledge them both until the March date. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. I've been living this for the last month and a half. Yeah. So there's 2 contract end dates. He's going to the furthest one out is a recommendation. Okay. All right, we have several speakers, and I'm sure there'll be more questions later. We have several speakers on this. We had a request for organized presentations, and per LAFCO's way of doing business, we allow 7 minutes per organization to speak. I don't care what order you go in, but I'd like the 2 hospital districts to speak first. If you want, Palomar, you're sitting front row right next to the speaker, so if you wouldn't mind. You've got 2 presenters. You got Kristen Gaspar and Sheila Brown going to be presenting for Palomar. So please go. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. CEO Diane Hansen does extend her apology for not being here today due to a long-standing commitment on her calendar. I'm going to assert something bold right now. Palomar refuses to accept misplaced responsibility for the potential closure of Tri-City's OB unit. What is most unfortunate is the way this issue has been politicized and grossly mischaracterized, which has been harmful to our reputation and devastating to us all who care deeply about patient welfare. An important part of this narrative that's gotten lost in all of the emotional pleas and false claims of new risk is the lengthy series of events that led to a health emergency in 2021 and the clinics out of desperation to come to us. Palomar was not a perpetrator stealing patients out of district as described. Palomar was a problem solver during a state of emergency affecting a highly vulnerable population in North County. Pregnant, underserved mothers without doctors to deliver their babies. In doing so, Palomar invested over $2 million unexpectedly to avert a crisis and care for our communities. I want to point out that this is not the first time we have had to step in within a short 4-year period. Still fresh on our minds was the surprising moment when Tri-City shuttered its behavioral health unit citing costs and staffing challenges without any notice. Palomar was forced to immediately pivot and invest unplanned resources when we were inundated in our emergency department. As you will hear from the clinics, Tri-City had over 6 years to come up with a viable solution, and it simply did not happen. They were a day late and $1 short when finally standing up a program after 6 years of lack of resolve, and then an additional 6 months after the clinics left. If Palomar had known we needed to come to you in 2021, I can say with conviction that this board would have easily recognized the health emergency North County was facing, the absence of doctors to deliver babies. The last time we came before you, commissioners asked why we didn't seek approval before entering into a contract with the health clinics. As stated then, we simply had no idea LAFCO would have involvement because these patients are not being seen outside of our district boundaries. They are served within the walls of our hospital, referred by private clinics. As soon as we learned of any potential LAFCO involvement, our application was filed within 48 hours. Little did we know how controversial this situation would become, especially since not too long ago the circumstances were flipped. Tri-City served as the preferred partner for the medical clinics, and patients were referred from areas of our district to deliver at Tri-City. Far-reaching areas too, like Valley Center, Escondido, Poway, Ramona. The only difference? Tri-City operated with a gentleman's handshake without your consent, and Palomar signed a contract. That's it. The contract is why we're here today, because LAFCO has no authority to tell private health clinics where to refer their patients, and patients still have choice. If we understood that then, we may have done exactly what Tri-City did to stay out of your boardroom, not put anything in writing. But we are about to invest millions of dollars to build out infrastructure and staff up to treat these mothers unexpectedly in order to avert a crisis. I suppose no good deed goes unpunished. Today, you will likely hear safety concerns about mothers traveling long distances to deliver at Palomar. Where were these concerns a year ago when the reverse scenario was true? There is no data to support the claim that lives were harmed when patients were traveling to Tri-City from areas of our district, just as there is no data to support that lives were harmed when patients traveled from areas of Tri-City's district to us. If they truly believe this is the case in asking for the deliveries back, do they not maintain this heightened level of concern for mothers in our district? There is no new risk. I've heard the concept tossed around that perhaps we just split the baby deliveries. And on the face of it, it sounds like a reasonable idea. Unfortunately, folks with experience in managing hospital operations and service lines will tell you that in North County, there simply isn't enough volume to support this plan. LAFCO's involvement in contractual matters does raise some unresolved questions for Palomar. In July of 2021, Tri-City signed a contract to become a planned hospital for Kaiser in a shift away from Palomar, which had been the only planned hospital since 2003. In this case, Kaiser's admin and corporate offices, as well as their hospital and construction, are in the heart of Palomar's district. This contract meant more than 185,000 Kaiser members living in North County could be pulled to Tri-City for care, many out of district.
You have less than 2 minutes. I don't know if you want to get Sheila in here or not, but
You
okay.
may hear, well, Kaiser is different, it's a health plan. But Kaiser isn't just a health plan. They have a hospital, they have physicians, and it's a distinction without a difference. I'm going to venture a guess that Tri-City never came to you to get your permission to seek patients out of district before becoming a planned hospital. Will Tri-City soon do the right thing and come for your permission? At the end of the day, all the noise needs to stop. Time wasted before LAFCO, money spent on lawyers, and time spent in court. Hospitals may be faring better than last year, but a difficult path lies ahead for all of us, in particular for our district hospitals who will continue to face financial headwinds. Allow me to point out the obvious. The real competition is not Tri-City v. Palomar. The real competition comes the minute Kaiser opens its doors to its new North County hospital this fall. This challenge brings with it a unique opportunity, one of potential collaboration and partnership between Palomar and Tri-City in this changing healthcare landscape. It will take political will and courage to make it happen. And on behalf of Palomar CEO Diane Hansen, we are ready.
And Sheila, you got 41 seconds.
Quickly, Sheila Brown, have been in this community for 32 years, recently retired from Palomar Health as the COO. I live in Oceanside. Oceanside means the world to me, my husband, and my children. We moved here to become a family of the FBI in 1991. I've seen the healthcare landscape change dramatically. But what is important for the commissioners today is to please allow the two districts, as Jim Desmond said so early in October, to come together, to collaborate, to figure out what we need to do to continue to service our vulnerable patient population. It will not change. We need to do that together.
Thanks, Sheila. Appreciate it. Okay, from Tri-City, we have Rocky Shot. Well, I don't know if commissioners have questions. You want to wait till they all present? Whatever you want to do. If you have a burning question, just raise your hand and let me know. Is it Rocky? Who's speaking? You've got some.
I have Dr. Ma speaking for the district.
Dr. Ma speaking for the district. Okay.
The new interim CEO.
All right.
May I submit some documents for the commission?
Sure. Can you give it to Carol Ann or?
Yes.
Or Joe McKenzie can pass them all out.
Thank you. So sorry. Thank you. There's a few.
Oh man, there's homework.
Try to keep it simple. Pretty sure this is
Kill a
a
tree.
tree. Yep. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're just getting rid of all your paint. That's all?
That's it. That's it. We kept it simple today.
Some of this is on emails.
Got everything out? Yeah. All right.
Go ahead, we'll
Great.
start.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Commissioners and Chairman Desmond. Thank you for allowing me to represent Tri-City Healthcare District with a presentation today. My name is Gene Ma. I'm the Chief Medical Officer, Emergency Medicine Physician, and soon to be interim CEO at Tri-City. I'm going to ask that we go ahead and skip. We have a slide presentation. Are we able to bring that up? We're going to ask to skip through the first 3 slides and bring us straight to slide 5. In the interest of time, most of the materials have been presented to you previously and in the documents mentioned in front of you today. What they really serve to do is establish the basis for Tri-City Health District's position. I want to start by saying first and foremost, and make it very, very clear, there is no public health crisis. It never existed. It does not exist. It was very clear to the Commission on October the 3rd that there was no basis for that, and the Commission asked that this be revisited with additional information at its subsequent meeting 60 days later. I can only presume that there was no basis to establish that, and that was never brought forth as recommended and instructed by the Commission. As a result, LAFCO cannot establish a basis for exercising the executive officer's delegation of authority, because that is central to the argument and the ability to move forward on the executive officer's delegation of authority. LAFCO is now in violation of its procedural obligations as set forth in the CKH Act of 2000, which clearly states under section 56133 of the statute that authorization for services outside jurisdictional boundaries may occur by contract or agreement, quote, only if it first requests and receives written approval from the Commission. This did not occur, and the executive officer broke procedural order by issuing a retroactive authorization. We further contend multiple other procedural violations and deviations occurred. The arguments against reversal of its decision are inconsequential. We have heard Palomar indicate that the clinics approach them rather than the opposite. Again, irrelevant and noise. When a public health crisis could not be established, essentially the goalpost got moved, and we changed it from a public health crisis to a public health crisis on the basis of financial duress. If that is the new marker and baseline for what a public health crisis is, what is deemed a public health crisis, The county public health, the Department of Public Health will be exceptionally overwhelmed. A recent letter from the from Palomar Health, excuse me, special counsel puts forth additional new nonsensical arguments to serve as distractions rather than judicially sound arguments. One argument is that Palomar spent $2 million to secure laborist services. I remind the commission that those investments were made well before any authorization was applied for or approved, as if to say you can break the law and justify it because you paid for it. It's absurd. And the letter also concludes that Palomar has always been acting in good faith. But recently we were asked to sit in a collaborative meeting to discuss the options and put forth options on the table. And at that meeting, just before the meeting, an email came out from the CEO of Palomar quoting, quote, "Zero intention of working things out." That doesn't quite meet our definition of a good faith effort. And to claim that patients have the right to choose their hospital, I think the facts would speak differently, have multiple letters addressing how that's actually not occurring. So the bottom line is that these arguments are inconsequential. Tri-City has provided labor and delivery and NICU services for decades without a gap. That we have the same model of services, which is a laborist, and a failure to reverse this decision will result in drastic unintended consequences in irreversible damage and suffering to the communities we serve. So I want to touch on the consequences. First and foremost, it jeopardizes the health and safety of mothers and babies. Placental abruption is, to any provider in this room, one of the scariest and most life-threatening situations in late-term pregnancy. That baby will not survive a 20-minute drive, and each passing minute, the mother's likelihood of survival diminishes. A baby with an umbilical cord wrapped around his or her neck, called a nuchal cord, which is not at all uncommon, goes undetected without immediate monitoring as a result of extended travel, will result in a permanent devastating brain damage to that unborn infant, which we call cerebral palsy. The decision as it stands decreases access to care in the local community. Mothers living paycheck to paycheck will have to travel, in some cases, 2.5 hours one way by public transportation. This decreases and discourages access to care to many of our most socioeconomically disadvantaged community members. And this further widens the gap in health equity. And mothers no longer are granted the right to choose their healthcare destination. In 2023, in the great state of California, can't we just agree that this is wholly unacceptable? This likely will force closure of the women and newborn services at Tri-City because Tri-City made a multi-million-dollar investment, much more than $2 million, in maternal child services. And this decision all but guarantees that this unit will be unsustainable and will fail and eventually compromise the viability of the entire organization. So we have a proposal. We were asked to try to come together. We put a proposal on the table, and that proposal basically states on the next slide that LAFCO immediately rescind authorization for Palomar Health District to perform out-of-agency services, and subsequently, both clinics and both hospitals enter into a new equitable, cost-neutral agreement for the clinics. We do not know the details of that contract that was done without our understanding. But with that said, we will absolutely make the clinics whole and ensure that they have zero additional cost. The effect of the proposal is the following. LAFCO no longer, the jurisdictional boundaries and authority is restored to LAFCO. LAFCO is no longer at risk of being in violation of its own statutory requirements. Both clinics see zero additional cost and are relieved of their financial burden.
You got 30 seconds. And Duke, can you put the slide up that he's talking about?
I'm sorry, it's slide 8. Sorry. No precedent is created to establish the basis for a new public health threat, which is financial duress. And the collaborative agreement reestablishes the following for the community's most vulnerable patients: local access to high-quality care, a woman's right to choose their health care, and improves disparity in health inequity. We get back to the core reason why we serve the roles that we serve, which is in the interest of the community. We put the interests and the health and safety of our community first, not profits.
Okay,
And
Dr.
so
Moore, your time's up.
we ask that the commission reverse the decision to grant authorization to Palomar Health to perform out-of-agency services within Tri-City Health.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Let's not do the clapping or cheering or things like that. Let's allow each side the same respect, and so I would appreciate that. Let's move on to, we have Vista Community Clinic. Vista Community Clinic, you have 7 minutes as well. I see Fernando. And, Fernando, so you want the whole, you got 2 speaker slips in, Fernando, so that doesn't get you 14 minutes, you still have 7.
Having 2 of me would be pretty scary. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Fernando Sanudo, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Vista Community Clinic. I've been with the clinic for 35 years. I was hired back in 1987 as their first community outreach worker. And after 35 years, they had no more positions for me, so they made me the Chief Executive Officer, so here I am. Vista Community Clinic has been around since 1972. We're a federally qualified healthcare center, which means we have a designation by the federal government that we have to abide by certain guidelines. Since about 1990, Vista Community Clinic has been working hand in hand with Tri-City Medical Center to do our labor and deliveries. However, our model is different. Most federally qualified healthcare centers contract labor and delivery out to an OB group, or what they call a laborist group. Because North County did not have a laborist group, we had to create our own. So we're employing 7 OBGYNs that we were paying for at the hospital to be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, which, as you can imagine, was very costly for us. After 9/11, when security went up, we started to see a decrease in the number of deliveries. So during that experience, we found that we just could not sustain the program. We were delivering between 100 to 120 babies every single month, and that decreased down to about 50 to 60 deliveries. So with that model, we were losing between 500,000 to about 600,000. For a large institution, that probably doesn't seem like much, but when you're a federally qualified small care clinic, it is a big deal. So it was becoming very, very difficult for us. So as a CEO, I was having conversations with Tri-City for a while. This wasn't new information. I approached them about coming up with a model that could possibly work for both of us, because we were just losing too much money. My response from Tri-City was, because 90% of our patients are Medi-Cal patients, which means that Medi-Cal did not pay the hospital very well, that they were losing $1,000 a day every time our mom had to spend a night at the hospital. So in other words, your program is already losing money for us, so there's really nothing we can offer. In July of 2020, I started getting feedback from my OBGYNs, or my doctors, letting me know that they felt that the stipend they were receiving to work in the hospital was too low, and they wanted me to increase that by 50%. If I didn't increase it by 50%, I had already lost 2 OBs. They told me, we will not take extra shifts. So needless to say, I went into a state of panic. Who's gonna cover my shifts? Because Tri-City doesn't employ OBGYNs. TrueCare does employ OBGYNs, and I did approach TrueCare, but they said, sorry, we're in the same boat. We don't have any extra doctors to provide you. So I met with Dr. Ma, and he and I and our Chief Medical Officer met with 2 different OBGYN contractors that could potentially do the deliveries at the hospital for us, so that we wouldn't have to pay the doctors anymore. Tri-City would hire the group, and then they would cover their fee. We would still send our patients to be delivered, but that fee wouldn't come on us, it would come on Tri-City. We interviewed 2 contractors, one of which I really liked, we both liked. However, Tri-City made the decision not to hire the contractor because I was told that it was too expensive for them, number 1, and number 2, that they were gonna need extra doctors, and so apparently they approached some of my doctors, and my doctors said, no, we're not interested in working for that group, and for that reason, they couldn't move forward. Tri-City during that time told me, because I wouldn't have known this, they informed me that the same group that we were interested in hiring was also interviewing at Palomar. And that's how I found out that the group was interviewing at Palomar. So I thought, okay, well, since it didn't work here, and I'm desperate, I'm gonna approach Palomar. So I approached Palomar. We went through several months of negotiation. How is this going to work? I didn't really know anyone at Palomar. I didn't know anything about Palomar. I always hold Tri-City in high regard. There was no reason for me to leave Tri-City, other than the fact, number one, it was too expensive, and number two, I didn't have enough doctors to cover all my shifts. So it did become a public health emergency. So I was going back to Tri-City, hey, this is going on. You know, we may be moving to Palomar. You know, are you guys, can you do anything to keep us here? And I was told by leadership at Palomar, and I'm saying by the record, I was told, you know what, Fernando, if I was in your place, I would be doing the same thing, going to Palomar. So that's what I did. I went to Palomar. I was required to give a 30-day notice. I gave a 45-day notice, and it was probably on the, I don't know, the 10th or 11th day after I gave my notice that I heard from Steve Dietland, the CEO, for the very first time. And it was not, the conversation was not, hey, what can we do to keep you? We need you here, we want you here, what can we do? The whole conversation was about, can you give me 90-day notice instead of 45-day notice? Because I don't have any doctors and OBs. I said, Steve, you can hire my doctors. They're no longer going to do deliveries for me, so you're welcome. I have 6 of them. You can hire them if you want. I said, no, I can't give you 90 days. I already signed a contract. I'm moving forward to Palomar. So that happened. Never heard from Tri-City ever again until October that I was asked to present at this meeting. I've had no bad feedback from our patients. Our patients are driving to Escondido fine. I know that Palomar had a smaller neonatal department, so sometimes if the babies needed to be readmitted, we still have a contract with Dr. Mohavidian, who's here today, so the moms will take them there. And so anyway, there's been no problem. I'm just honestly just really disappointed that all of this is happening, because both Vista and TrueCare took the right steps to move forward. And so I'm just as surprised as everybody else that this has now become an issue for Tri-City. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure. To Fernando?
If the clinic,
Sanudo?
the clinic doesn't have doctors going to the hospital, and the hospital doesn't have doctors, who delivers the babies?
I don't know. Is that a?
I got confused on doctors coming and going and 24/7.
Yes, so
I don't know. Can you answer that, Fernando?
Vista has its own doctors, TrueCare has its own doctors, and that's a good question for the hospital. I don't know. So
Okay.
You can ask Dr. Ma.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I don't know. Dr. Ma, can you answer that real quick?
Who delivers the babies? It's by contract now.
Can you get up here to the speaker so we get this on,
Sure.
on
Absolutely.
the microphone?
What if you don't have a contract?
Either the hospital has call agreements with physicians to provide coverage, which was kind of an older model. The newer model, which everybody's moving to, is a laborist model in which you contract with an entity that provides hospital-based doctors who stay in the hospital, and they deliver. Once they're done delivering, they return the patients back to the community clinics where they are able to take care of their outpatient services.
All right. Thank you.
And Tri-City and Palomar both have that.
Okay. Okay, TrueCare. We have Dr. Marie Russell. Dr. Russell? Do you have multiple handouts?
I know.
Thank you.
No
All
handouts.
right.
Good morning, Chairman Desmond, and members of the commission. My name is Marie Russell. I'm the Chief Medical Officer and Chief Operations Officer at TrueCare. I am an internal medicine physician by training. Michelle Gonzalez, our President and CEO, extends her regret. She also had a previously scheduled meeting, but asked me to come and represent TrueCare this morning. So TrueCare is a federally qualified health center that exists in North County, San Diego. Unlike Vista Community Clinic, we exist in both health districts, Tri-City and Palomar, as well as we have one clinic in Riverside. We've also been around for quite a while, since 1971. And so we have had a long-standing partnership with Tri-City Medical Center. For the past 10 years, they have been the delivery location of our obstetrical program. Like Vista, our providers provided both in-person in-clinic care as well as in-person inpatient care or OB care at the hospitals. Unlike Vista, we double staffed. We had a OBGYN model as well as a certified nurse midwife model. And so we were staffing at the hospital 24/7 with at least one provider on call at all times, a certified nurse midwife, an OB on call during the day, and then on backup call during the night. In healthcare, we often talk about what's called the quadruple aim. So really that is addressing the needs of the population, giving patients the best possible healthcare experience, and at the most effective and lowest cost. And then several years ago, clinician welfare was brought into the picture as well, because we know that in order to deliver quality care, you need to have providers that are not burned out and are doing well. Similar to Vista Community Clinic, and as we know throughout the country and certainly throughout San Diego, births and birth rates have declined over time. And so we were in fact staffing 24/7 with those two individuals for delivery of about 60 patients a month. So TrueCare had also approached Tri-City several years ago saying, what can we do? This is not only expensive, but it also is burning out our clinicians. And they're having trouble, we're having trouble keeping staff, and it's not good for patient care. So we had engaged in these conversations for several years. At least I came onto board to TrueCare in 2020, and we met with Dr. Ma shortly after I come on to discuss these issues. We acknowledge that Dr. Ma was working hard and everything may not have been in his control, certainly with regard to the standing up of a laborist model, which was what our request is. So similar to inpatient medicine, where now outpatient docs don't typically round on their patients in the hospital. There's hospitalist services. Laborist units are similar, right? It's a high volume. When you need a provider, you need them then. They need to be there. And so OB laborist models came on board, and we were having those discussions. When VCC providers, so one of the things about OB care as well is sometimes when it goes badly, it goes very badly, and you need more than one OB. We were not able to staff more than one OB, so our providers were reliant on our partnership with VCC, and VCC was reliant on their partnership with us should two members need to go to the OR or something else. So when VCC providers were no longer available at Tri-City, again, we went to Tri-City and we said, what can we do? We really need that backup. This is becoming an unsafe situation. They were not able to move in a timely fashion to provide us any discrete, tangible result of standing up a laborist model. And so we made the decision at that time that we would move to Palomar, where they did have a laborist model. And again, as we apply the quadruple aim to make sure that we're taking care of our population, patient satisfaction at a reasonable cost with clinician well-being. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Yes, Commissioner Willis has a question. To who? Dr. Russell?
Yeah. Could you, so I have a very clear understanding, explain the laborist model?
Yeah, thank you. So a laborist model basically is OBGYNs who are on site 24/7 at the hospital. They do not engage in any outpatient activity. So they are not having to run to their clinic to see outpatients and then run to the hospital when a woman would present in labor or for an evaluation. These are typically contractual agreements through hospitals or at times maybe employed by hospitals. They reside on site and their whole purpose is to man the labor and delivery deck At times, they may engage in some supportive gynecologic emergency services as well for a hospital. But their whole purpose is to be on that labor and delivery deck to be able to take care of moms. You bet.
All right. Do we have any questions? We've got a lot more public comment speakers. Do we have any questions for the organizations that have presented today? Palomar Health, Tri-City, Vista Community Clinic, or True Care Clinic? From the commissioners, any questions? All right, I have one for Dr. Ma. Dr. Ma, you mentioned, if you want to let me to get up here. You mentioned that you now have the same services that they were requiring. It sounds like you didn't have, they needed a model, you didn't have the model, so they went someplace else that had the model. And so are you saying now that you have that model and you can do those same services, provide the same services and the same financial, I guess, deal they're getting at Palomar Health?
Yes, 100%, absolutely.
So when did you get this new model?
March 1st of 2021.
2021.
2022?
2020.
Thank you.
Okay, because the contracts were signed in 21, and so they might. So you've had them. It's in place, and you can offer the same services.
Right. We brought the model to the clinics. Unfortunately, they entered into an NDA.
They had already.
We were no longer in those discussions.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for? Okay. All right. We've got more speakers. These are the 3-minute speakers coming before us, and if I butcher your name, I apologize ahead of time. I'm going to blame it on your penmanship. Victor Dalforin, followed by Melissa Terra, and then Dr.
Say Dr. Molov.
Dr. Molov. Mova Heidi? Okay. So, any order? Victor, Melissa, or Dr. Mohammed? Doctor. And you are?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Movahedian. I'm neonatal ICU and normal newborn nursery medical director at Tri-City Medical Center. I've been at Tri-City for 26 years. Thank you for allowing me to talk in this, session. I know I have 3 minutes. I could talk hours, but that's fine.
Sorry.
I like to clear one subject in this matter once and for all. If by reversing your vote today and keep Tri-City Medical Center mother-baby unit as is, I will guarantee there will not be a medical emergency ever for the resident of our hospital district. Over the last almost 40 years, we have our neonatal ICU at Tri-City Medical Center. To this point today, there has not been even one instance of emergency. The patient did not get adequate care. The information was given to you regarding presence of medical emergency was not really right. When Vista Community Clinic decided to leave just due to its financial reason, I had a direct communication with BCC CEO, Mr. Fernando. I was interviewed by North County Union Tribune at that time, and the quote I gave, if Tri-City loses their almost 50% of pregnant women to Palomar, it will be difficult for our neonatology group as well as our hospital to sustain the great services we are providing, and that potentially will create a medical emergency for our community. That was interpreted wrongly then. I can reassure you, and I have a proof by this meeting, despite we lost more than 90% of our pregnant women to Palomar, then True Care decided to leave, besides BCC already had left, we have not decreased our services. We maintain 24/7 obstetric care as well as 24/7 neonatal and newborn services. We have 20 level 3 NICU bed. Our physicians stay in the hospital, sleep in the hospital to take care of any potential emergency threatening the life of a mother or their babies. And despite being in crucial financial situation, we kept our promises to our community until today. The Palomar Hospital had 4 NICU
30 seconds, sir. 30 seconds left.
Okay. So, let the great team of Palomar mother-baby take care of their own, and let the Tri-City take care of ours. I hope the situation is clear to you all. Now you know, when there is no medical emergency at Tri-City ever to this point, if you vote, reverse your vote today, we will sustain. If you continue your voting, our patient travel to Palomar, I'm not sure if we're gonna sustain. And the people of the community, our community, are gonna really definitely suffer.
Thank you, Doctor. So, all right, hold on. Okay, no, go ahead. I'm just scolding the clappers.
I'm Dr. Victor Del Forno. I'm a resident of Carlsbad. I'm a pediatrician who recently retired after 45 years of service in the Tri-City District. I'm also president of Greater Tri-Cities Independent Physician Association, so I do know what goes on in Tri-City. I reviewed the October meeting on video, and I was amazed at the disingenuous reasons that Palomar was granted what they were granted. The care at Tri-City is beyond reproach. It's the only hospital that has a neonatologist to attend all C-sections and complicated deliveries, and we have not had any bad events, at least my time there. If the neonatal intensive care unit needs to close, we're not going to have much of a delivery service, which will also create a problem that there will be very few pediatricians in the North County because pediatricians need deliveries to survive. So I'd like you to consider reversing what you've already done. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Terra, then followed by Greg Cox.
LAFCO Commissioners, my name is Melissa Terra. I'm the Director of Women and Newborn Services at Tri-City Medical Center. In healthcare, accuracy and factualness are critical. Failure to validate information can lead to catastrophic outcomes. The decision made by Executive Officer Keene Simmons to grant Palomar Health permission to operate outside of their district boundaries was done without verifying the credibility of the information provided. The claim that it was done for safety reasons was proven false, and the clinics themselves admitted here in October that it was done purely for financial reasons. Despite these inaccuracies, Mr. Simmons has maintained his decision is sound. Remember that his decision is representative of each of you should you allow his final edict to stand. On January 27, 2023, Mr. Simmons provided Palomar with an amended approval letter. His failure to provide accurate information in his letter highlights his inability to accurately reflect the facts and thus gauge and prevent the risk of negative outcomes in the healthcare arena. Not only did he state the end date of Palomar and TrueCare's agreement incorrectly, which he did later amend in his February 23 letter, but he also erroneously stated VCC and Palomar's contract end date, and twice stated inaccurately the serviced communities of Tri-City were Vista, Oceanside, and Encinitas. Mr. Simmons, not a subject matter expert in healthcare, does not even know which community members are being adversely impacted by his uninformed decisions. I could continue, but the crux of the issue is that you, as commissioners, if you as commissioners uphold Mr. Simmons' ruling, you will each be culpable in how it negatively impacts our community members. Make no mistake, this decision does not just impact the women who receive care at VCC and TrueCare, but all childbearing women in the Tri-City District. The fate of women in newborn services at TCMC hangs in the balance. The program cannot be sustained when the majority of our district patients are being redirected outside of our district to Palomar. A care desert will be created, and when an emergency occurs in the community, that mom and babe will be directed 30 minutes down the freeway. When minutes matter, a child's fate will be sealed.
You have 30 seconds.
That mom, who could be your daughter, sister, aunt, cousin, friend, or neighbor, will be left to deal with the lifelong consequences of your decision here today. The lucky ones will be left to navigate countless appointments with a mirage of specialists to combat the effects of decreased oxygen to the baby's brain and utero. The unlucky ones will live with the shadow of what if. What if there was a closer hospital? What if they had had earlier intervention? You as a commission will have to face each of these mothers and families and explain why the clinic's desire to improve their financial position was more important or more valuable than the life of their child, or the crippling financial impact of a special needs child or an entire family unit, or even their right to choose where they get their health care.
Thank you. Supervisor Cox. I want to say thank you very much for leading the meeting of the minds to hopefully get everybody in the room and talk. So thank you for doing that. So go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. I was asked by Supervisor Desmond to facilitate a meeting which we had on February 17th with Tri-City representatives in Palomar and also the two community clinics. Representing Tri-City was Rocky Chavez, the chair of the Tri-City Healthcare District Board, and Dr. Jean Ma, who you heard earlier, the chief medical officer. From Palomar Healthcare District, we had Diane Hansen, who unfortunately had to leave fairly soon after we got started, Sheila Brown, Kristen Gaspar, and then from Vista Community Clinic, we had Michelle Fernando Sanudo for TRICARE. We had Michelle Gonzalez, the president and CEO, and then LAFCO staff was represented by Alex Giragosian, the deputy counsel for San Diego LAFCO. I was asked to facilitate this meeting, so it was a very cordial meeting. I was glad to see everybody showed up. There was some question whether that was going to happen or not. There was a lot of good discussion back and forth, but I have to say, as a facilitator, I think I'm a total failure. Obviously, because we're here today trying to resolve these issues. But we did have a good dialogue, and I think there was some useful information that came out. I know that both the TRICARE District and the Palomar District had represented that they had invested over $2 million each in improving their OBGYN facilities. Obviously, I think for the two community clinics, who I just have a great deal of respect for, I think it was very obvious they were kind of caught in the middle. In fact, they had indicated at the end of the session that they would prefer not to be invited back anymore because they kind of felt that they were the tennis ball being hit back and forth. And I tend to kind of agree with them. Both of them, I think, are doing great things for the clients that they represent. I know in the case of Vista Community Clinic, they had indicated that they were losing over $500,000 per year on providing OGBYN services at Tri-City, and TrueCare had indicated that they were losing over $2 million a year by providing those services at Tri-City. I was also represented by Tri-City that their OBGYN unit, now that they have a severe reduction in the number of births that they are doing, they're down to about 1 birth per day, that they're losing $10 million per year on providing those services. I have to tell you, I come from a part of the county, which Mayor McCann comes from also, where we don't have healthcare districts. So this is kind of a new animal for me to kind of take a look at. I think it became very obvious to me that this is a real crisis situation that needs to be resolved. I was asked to be a facilitator. I wasn't paid to be an arbitrator or a mediator. Actually, I wasn't paid anything, so I was paid for it. But I do have a couple of observations that I would be happy to share.
If you could, very quickly, if you could.
Okay. Number one, I mean, obviously, if you're losing $10 million a year, providing 1 birth per day, it kind of raises the question whether there's other options. Maybe you don't need to be in that. And I realize there's a desire to have all those services at every hospital. Secondly, it seems to me the crisis that is before you right now is because of the MOUs or the contracts that are signed by the two healthcare districts, excuse me, the two community clinics with Palomar. Obviously, if there was an ability to have, instead of contracts or MOUs, informal agreements where they could continue to do those services at Palomar, I don't believe there would be an issue that would be before LAFCO. The community clinics are not under any jurisdiction of LAFCO, so they can refer people to wherever they want to go. If there was no contract,
Okay, got 30 seconds.
Perhaps that might allow things to go on without LAFCO's involvement. Secondly, it may even provide an opportunity to go back and have those two community clinics have some dialogue with Tri-City. I think the problem right now is I think they feel like they're under contract with Palomar and probably feel some obligation that they can't go outside and talk with Tri-City. So those are just two observations. You didn't pay me for those, but I offer them up as possible solutions for you to consider. But
Well,
thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for being a facilitator there. I think you did a great job. Mayor Sanchez, City of Oceanside. And then we're going to have Katie Collier and Donna Ferguson.
Thank you. Before I get started on my comments, because I'm short, Mr. Sanudo indicated to me that he had said Palomar had said it's what I would do to go to Palomar. It was actually Tri-City representative that told him, yes, that's what I would do. I would go to Palomar. So, just wanted to. Okay. My name is Esther Sanchez, and I'm the mayor of Oceanside. I have worked with Vista Community Clinic and their executive director for 25 years. VCC is committed to serving thousands of critically underserved people in our community, which is primarily Latino, immigrant, and Spanish-speaking. The commission will be reviewing a 3-year doctor labor delivery contract between Vista Community Clinic and Palomar Hospital. VCC has had a Medi-Cal prenatal labor delivery program since the early 1990s, retaining and paying for their own labor delivery doctors 24/7 at Tri-City at an annual loss of approximately $600,000 a year. Currently, VCC has approximately 60 deliveries a month, which was almost twice that number prior to COVID. In 2020, VCC determined it had reached a critical stage and could no longer retain and or pay their doctors for labor delivery services. VCC began negotiations with Tri-City to see if Tri-City could provide those services. After a year of negotiations, Tri-City determined it could not provide the doctors, creating a medical emergency of significant proportions to VCC's patients. VCC notified Tri-City that they would approach Palomar Hospital and were told, quote, that's what I would do. Palomar agreed to provide labor delivery services to VCC, resulting in a 3-year contract starting in October 2021. 8 months later, TrueCare started their own similar contract with Palomar. LAFCO required Palomar to submit the out-of-agency service agreement for administrative approval of the contracts. LAFCO's executive officer determined the situation posed a significant public health and safety risk to mothers and their babies per statutory requirements, and therefore approved the contracts. It is not controverted that VCC was in a desperate situation in 2021, affecting the health and safety, the very lives of its patients, mothers, and babies. VCC's labor delivery doctors were no longer available after September 2021. VCC's patients would have had to go to the ER, further putting their lives at risk, as Tri-City Medical at the time had no labor delivery doctors for VCC Medi-Cal patients in October 2021. VCC's contract with Palomar has in fact saved the lives of over 1,000 mothers and their babies. I urge this board to respect the final decision of the executive officer and allow the contracts to run their course. VCC, which is not under the jurisdiction of LAFCO, acted in the best interest of its patients and is not legally or financially in a position to break the contract set to terminate next year. Any action attempting to invalidate the contract will only lead to years of litigation, much longer than the contract termination date, causing irreparable harm to VCC and their patients, financially and as risks to the health and safety of thousands of patients. The question is, was there a risk to the health and safety of patients in October 2021 that led to this contract? The answer is yes. This is about the health and safety of thousands of Medi-Cal patients in Oceanside. Please consider that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, Katie Collier, Donna Ferguson, and then Kathy Krantz. Thank you.
Good morning, esteemed members of the LAFCO Commission. My name is Katie Collier, and I'm a labor and delivery nurse who has grown up for 42 years in the city of Oceanside, and I now get to proudly serve my community at Tri-City Medical Center as a labor and delivery nurse. I come before you today to express my deep concern and disappointment regarding the recent decision to grant Palomar Health District permission to operate within the Tri-City Health District's boundaries. As a healthcare professional who works in the front lines of patient care, I have firsthand seen the negative impact that this decision has made on our community. Since Palomar Health District started operating within our boundaries, we have seen a sharp decline in deliveries at our medical center. Patients have been forced to bypass our excellent hospital and travel great distances to deliver their babies and receive neonatal care. The decision to allow Palomar Health District to operate within our boundaries was made without any consideration for the needs of our patients. It has been a devastating blow to the healthcare community in North County and has left many of us wondering what we can do to ensure that our patients receive the care that they deserve. If LAFCO does not reverse their decision, then Tri-City Healthcare District will be forced to close their labor and delivery and NICU units. This will have a catastrophic impact on the healthcare community in North County, and it will leave families without access to the healthcare they deserve and need. As a healthcare professional, it is our duty to provide the highest quality of care to our patients. We take this responsibility very serious, and we believe that our patients deserve nothing but the best. But without the support of LAFCO, we will not be able to continue to provide the level of care that our patients need and deserve. In conclusion, I urge you to reconsider your decision to grant Palomar Health District permission to operate within the Tri-City Healthcare District boundaries. The consequences of this decision are far-reaching and devastating. They will have a long-lasting impact on our community. We cannot afford to lose our labor and delivery and NICU units. We cannot afford to let our patients suffer. And as a voting member of the Oceanside community,
30 seconds.
Jim, Mayor, depending on where you come out on this decision, depends on whether or not you have my vote on the next election. Thank you for your time.
If I had a nickel for every time that was said.
Promises.
Good morning. My name is Donna Ferguson. Good morning, Chairman Desmond, honorable members of LAFCO Commission. As the Director of Surgery at Tri-City Medical Center, that's my role there, I work closely with the OB department in providing quality care for women in this community. I'm here to urge you to reverse your recent decision to grant Palomar Health District permission to operate within Tri-City's healthcare district boundaries. The decision to allow Palomar Health District to operate within our district has already had a significant negative impact on patient care. As healthcare providers, we all know that patients need the appropriate time to heal and recover before being discharged from the hospital. I have been in communication with our OB department about their concerns. They tell me this is not always happening at Palomar Medical Center because of, I believe, the distance for some of these patients. Patients are being discharged too early, not receiving the care they need to fully recover. This has led to many patients being readmitted, but to Tri-City Medical Center because we're close by during that medical emergency, including the babies involved. It seems that Palomar Health and the local community clinics are forcing patients to drive past our hospital and travel great distances for substandard care, given the distance that they have to drive in a crucial situation. Unfortunately, if Palomar Health District continues to operate within our district, Tri-City will likely have to suspend operations of our labor and delivery and neonatal care units. I hear their reports every day of the volume that they're caring for, and it greatly impacts, of course, the daily operations. This would be a devastating blow to the North County community. Tri-City considers himself a community hospital. Countless members of our community would be left without immediate access to care, and this simply is unacceptable. As healthcare providers, we have a duty to provide the best possible care to our patients and to give them choices of where they deliver their babies. However, the decision by LAFCO to allow Palomar Health District to operate within our district has made this task much more challenging. We are already seeing the negative consequences. In conclusion, I urge you to reconsider your decision and to reverse the permission granted to Palomar District. I think Tri-City has proven today that we have the means to provide the care for these patients, and they deserve to come to Tri-City, their community hospital. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna. We have Kathy Krantz, and then followed by Gloria Rosenloff, and then Leslie Semena.
Hi, my name is Kathy Kranz, and I've been a nurse at Tri-City Medical Center for over 40 years.
For over 60 years, Tri-City has been providing labor and delivery services as well as newborn care to our community. We have the first level 3 NICU, so we can provide care to sick and premature newborns in the community, allowing the parents to remain close by at home to visit their infant while providing care to other children, getting support from family, and being able to easily visit due to proximity. Recently, these patients have been guided by the clinics and the contracts to go 30 minutes away to Palomar. Driving on the 78 freeway is unpredictable, and due to unforeseen traffic or accidents, the drive can be much longer. If a woman is in labor, the fetus can become compromised, requiring immediate intervention to prevent neurological and health problems that can last the life of the newborn and family, as well as affect the outcome of having a healthy or special needs child. If it is an emergent situation, it can mean the difference between celebrating a birthday or grieving the loss of a child and dreams. Our clientele often will not question or advocate for themselves, and many times English is not their first language. They hesitate or refrain from asking for other options. They are told that the clinic has a contract with Palomar, but what they hear and are led to believe is that your insurance won't pay if you go elsewhere. I have heard this from many sources and patients, as well as by direct interview with a patient that chose to deliver at Tri-City because her other children were delivered there. Tri-City has a laborist group with 24-hour coverage, is equipped to handle deliveries. We accept all insurances and welcome all patients. You have the opportunity to reverse the emergency approval given to Palomar to provide care to patients in the Tri-City district. And I am urging you to do this to advocate for our district families. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. So we got Gloria, Leslie, and then Adela Irma Sanchez.
Hi, my name is Gloria Rosamont. I'm a labor and delivery charge nurse at Tri-City Hospital. I have been there for over 23 years. Communities and countries and ultimately the world are only as strong as the health of their women. Michelle Obama. Let's start globally and work toward home, San Diego. The World Health Organization and partners released a consensus statement and strategy paper on ending preventable maternal mortality in 2017. Stating every 2 minutes, a woman dies because of complications due to childbirth of pregnancy. For every woman who dies, there are about 20 to 30 women who experience injury, infection, or other birth or pregnancy-related complications. Access encompasses a wide range of potential difficulties, including costs, location of healthcare services, availability of trained healthcare workers, transportation services, and culture or language barriers that could inhibit women from receiving proper care. The WHO, the CDC, UNICEF, NIH, ACOG, and a variety of other alphabets are similarly focused in increasing better maternal outcomes. In our own communities, the recent actions endorsed by LAFCO have increased inequalities in access to care, is wasting valuable and available resources, and widening socioeconomic and racial disparities. These actions are dragging us backward instead of moving forward toward a better and stronger community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Good morning, LAFCO commissioners. My name is Leslie Samana, and I've worked for Tri-City Medical Center for 16 years. I am in my current position as a NICU manager, and I'm here today to ask you to reconsider your decision to grant Palomar Health District permission to operate within Tri-City Healthcare District's boundary. This decision has already had a negative impact on our patient care in our community. If it is not reversed, it will lead to even more significant consequences. I urge you to take a step back and consider the real-life implications of this decision. As a NICU manager, I have seen firsthand the incredible work that Tri-City does for our mothers and newborns. The labor and delivery unit and the neonatal intensive care unit provide essential services to families in our community, often during some of the most stressful and challenging times of their lives. Unfortunately, if Palomar is allowed to operate within our district, Tri-City will be forced to close our labor and delivery and NICU units. This would be devastating for families who rely on Tri-City for their care. The closure of these units would not only affect the mothers and babies who require our services, but would also impact the entire community. We are a community hospital. Tri-City has been a vital part of our local healthcare system for decades. The closure of these units would leave a significant gap in our medical infrastructure. Furthermore, I worry about the long-term implications of allowing Palomar Health District to operate within our district. If they are allowed to do so, it will set a dangerous precedent. Will they be allowed to make similar false accusations in the future and encroach into our district again? It is essential to protect the integrity of our healthcare system and ensure that we are providing the best possible care to all of our patients. In conclusion, I implore you to consider your decision and reverse the permission granted to Palomar Health District. The closure of Tri-City's labor and delivery and NICU units would be significant loss to our community. It would negatively impact patient care for years to come. Please do the right thing for our community and for our patients. Thank you for your
Thank you,
time.
Leslie. And Adela Irma Sanchez, you're our last speaker.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Adela Irma Sanchez, and I am an elected member of the Tri-City Healthcare District Board of Directors. I was born at Tri-City and lived in Oceanside until 2008 when I moved to Vista. So I can tell you, my roots in the North County community run deep. I have friends and family all over. I am here today for them. Today I urge you to take action on your previous decision to allow our community clinic patients to be forced to leave the Tri-City area where they live to receive care. Your decision forced those with limited decisions and difficulty with transportation to drive 20 to 30 minutes away or more from their hometown hospital. Do you understand what that means for pregnant women? Because I do. I had my second child in the car because I had a medical provider that did not deliver in the city I lived in. And when I was scheduled to deliver at Palomar, when they told me I did not meet the criteria to deliver there at that time, I believed them. And I traveled away to a different hospital and I delivered in the car. I am not sure I can even express the panic, anxiety, or distress my husband and I had at the moment on the phone with 911 asking for help. After that experience, I went to school and became a labor and delivery nurse. Labor and delivery has been my specialty for the last 10 years. I understand the urgency in maternity. I have seen the pain families experience when they are separated from their newborns because of expected or unexpected outcomes at delivery. I also understand that when it comes to our neonatal intensive care unit, also known as a NICU, size does matter, particularly as it relates to whether a mother can spend time near her newborn in the hospital where she delivered it or has to commute to a higher acuity hospital more than an hour away. Additionally, whether or not she has to risk her own health by making a decision to discharge herself early to be with her newborn. Tri-City has a 19-bed level 3 NICU that provides incomparable care in North County. I can also tell you, because I worked in 3 different hospitals, that Tri-City L&D provides outstanding care. I also know that despite all of the recent hurdles, their services have never stopped. They couldn't stop because there is no way one hospital can safely deliver all the women in the area that 3 L&D hospital units are serving now. The obstetricians, neonatologists, nurses, secretaries, operating room technicians, housekeepers, and all employees of Tri-City need our support. The community needs our support.
30
Women
seconds,
and
ma'am.
newborns need our support. My friends and family need our support. Tri-City needs these patients in our community hospital. Continue providing services for community clinic patients that our hospital was founded to serve as a district hospital. Act now to keep patients here in their hometown, to keep Tri-City employees employed, and to keep Tri-City L&D and NICU services open. Please take action as your jurisdictional duty calls for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adela. Thank you very much. If my commissioners will indulge me, I'm going to try to kick this off here.
Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. We still have one
We
speaker.
still have a speaker online.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Diane.
Diane Bedrosian. I apologize. Dr. Bedrosian.
Dr. Bedrosian, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Diane Bedrosian. I'm a pediatrician in Vista and on staff at the Tri-City Medical Center for over 30 years. This community has consistently relied on and appreciated the excellent care given to our laboring mothers and their newborns. Tri-City has been essential in caring for children in our community for decades. Tri-City has in fact outstanding clinicians, including top-notch neonatologists, superb nursing staff, and ancillary staff. It is a very important part of this community. I understand that the purpose of LAFCO is regulating boundaries for cities and special districts and directing and overseeing logical and timely changes to local government boundaries. As such, I do not see within that purpose a reason for approving Palomar's out-of-agency services. Both the CEO stated at a previous LAFCO meeting that there was no emergency. In fact, Mr. Sanudo stated twice clearly that there was no emergency. In the Executive Director's letter to the Commissioner dated today, the analysis mentions that financial considerations are sometimes considered when making decisions, but it is important to note that the lives of women and babies are not the same in discussing subject systems or ground waterfalls. The fact that the key decision makers of the policy do not appear to have health care experience is also very concerning. I believe it should be a decision by the Commission presented with opinions and consultation with those that deliver that essential health care. Many patients in our community do not have access to transportation. They have relied on having a hospital nearby for their needs, including one in North Oceanside where Mayor Sanchez, who is my good friend, lives. These people do not have transportation. Ms. Gaspar may be able to get in her car and drive where she wants to go. These people cannot. And a baby born in a vehicle while sitting in traffic and having a poor outcome is unconscionable, especially when it does not need to happen. Contrary to the letter from the Palomar CEO, which was filled with falsehoods and containing hearsay statements, Tri-City remains open and fully staffed to care for high-risk mothers and their newborns. This has been the case for decades and has not changed, even during COVID. It is unfortunate that this situation has become political, and is involved in the health of mothers and babies and should never be political. I also request that these types of decisions in the future be subject to discussion by the entire Commission, and they are not simply ministerial decisions. That should start today with the reversal of this decision. As number one, there was never any emergency. Number two, the clinics have presented no evidence that they are at risk of financial insolvency. And three, the Tri-City Mother Baby Unit is essential to our community.
30-second speaker.
She's not. Tammy, do we have any other speakers online or any email comments?
Yes, we have one live email comment.
Okay, you want to read that?
Okay, so this email is coming from Hope Cheney from, she is a manager for the Environmental Service Department at Tri-City Medical Center. She says, I am writing to you on behalf of Tri-City Medical Center labor and delivery issue. I've been working here for 21 years, not in the L&D area, but EVS. I was born here as well as many of my friends and family. We are local residents of Tri-City, has always been here for moms ready to deliver. This is their choice to come here. We are top-notch L&D as well as NICU for the sick babies. I am appalled that Palomar Hospital would recommend that BCC recommend that their patient only go to Palomar for L&D services. Why on earth would you tell a patient to only go to their when TCMC is right in the backyard with the top-level service we provide? Palomar is sending their sick babies here due to overload there. Why would you put a patient and their babies at risk? It's pure greed and not looking out for their patient's best interest. If I were to have a baby and I lived here in my district, I would come here in a heartbeat. My daughter had her baby here last year and had the most wonderful experience. I am asking you to please do not let Palomar intrude on out district and mandate BCC to only send their patients to Palomar. Where is the best interest for their patient? 13 minutes away could be life or death situation.
So waiting, no other comments? Okay, so I'll close the public hearing session of this item. So my commissioners will indulge me before we get into questions here. I want to thank staff, for all the hard work on this, and for all the presenters and people coming down here and waiting online for giving their perspective. And as the supervisor for North County, I represent a large share of both of these Palomar Health and Tri-City Hospital districts. And I'm certainly not here to pick a side. I think it is this commission's best interest to ensure that we achieve what is in the best interest of the residents of this county and ensure the residents have ample opportunity and access to health care. I believe it is in the residents' best interest that Palomar Health, Tri-City, Vista Community Clinic, and True Care all keep their services and departments open for business. And I understand Keene's decision for approving Palomar Health's contracts outside of its jurisdictional boundary based on a threat of public safety due to financial hardships of Vista Community Clinic and True Care. The amended recommendation before us today gives us the authorization for contracts outside of the jurisdictional boundary of Palomar Health into Tri-Cities District until March 1st of 2025. And as it was explained earlier, March 21st is the furthest date out of the two contracts that were signed 9 months prior to being brought forward to this commission for approval. And the reason I mentioned the 9 months, I'm not pointing blame, but I didn't know is not an excuse. But what happened is when it came to this board or this commission, which approves or disapproves, or Keene has the approval of out of jurisdictional contracts, it came to us in August of 2021 2022 to Keene, and then to this commission in October. Had it come when these contracts were signed in September of the 2021, the emergency would have been much more valid. Tri-City didn't have the procedure or the method in place that the clinics needed. It came to us after Tri-City got those methods in place, and it came to this board and this commission after that had already happened. So the question of the emergency was, we're scratching our heads over that. And so I think it would have been a slam dunk if the process would have been followed and it would have come to LAFCO before Tri-City then changed their model to the similar model of Palomar's. So what I'm also struggling with is how the date of March 1st, 2025 means anything with respect to the impending health and safety due to financial hardships. It's not there anymore. The commission, we have seen no financial documents throughout this whole thing, nor anything points to the March 1st, 2025 as the end date for any financial hardships. Nothing happens in a vacuum. What we heard today is that Tri-City is now in a financial hardship due to the contracts of Palomar Health within their district. And the recommendation, I think, before us doesn't really fix any financial hardship. It merely shifted it from one entity to another. And carrying this out for another 2 years to me doesn't make any sense. Tri-City stated they're able to offer the same services, the same terms as Palomar Health now within the district. Therefore, I think the reason for financial hardship for out of jurisdictional boundary services contracts is no longer valid. They can get the same thing. The clinics can get the same thing at Tri-City, and they can get the same thing at Palomar Hospital. But True Care and Vista Community Clinic can refer their patients to anybody, anytime. They are not bound by us at all. LAFCO has no jurisdiction authority over where they refer their patients. They can continue to send them, all of them, if we change something today, they can continue to send them all to Palomar if they want. They can send them to Canada, send them to Mexico. They can do whatever they want. We are not bound. We cannot tell them where to send those folks. So the only issue for LAFCO is Palomar's contract of services outside of their jurisdictional boundaries. That's it. If there were no contract signed and Vista Community Clinic just went there and True Care just went there, we'd be fine. LAFCO would be out of this. But the fact that contracts were signed out of district under an emergency that may or may not be happening is why it landed in our lap. So as I said, True Care and Vista Community Clinic can do anything they send their patients wherever they want. It's only when there are specific exclusive contracts or agreement outside of their boundaries that LAFCO gets involved. I know I just said that, but sorry. Anyway, the reason now, I think, for the financial hardship is moot. I would like to avoid Tri-City or any health care agency in the county having to shut down or shutter its labor or delivery or any other department. We'll do anything to make sure everybody can be served. I think we have to unwind this sooner than March 1st of 2025. I think the district boundaries need to be respected and upheld. So I'll make a motion, I'll put a motion forward, and then we can go into more discussion, and you can kill this motion if you want. But given the options in the agenda item, I'm in favor of option B. Option B is the staff's we amend staff's recommendation. Not get rid of it, just to amend it. I believe Keene made the best decision he could have at the time with the information he had. However, given the testimony today, I'm not convinced the financial hardship argument for out-of-boundary services is still applicable. Therefore, I'm going to move to amend Keene's recommendation. This action will still allow True Care and Vista Community Clinic to go to Palomar. You can continue to go. It allows both hospitals full service and operation in their districts. It allows much of Keene's decision to stay in place. I'm only recommending that we change the end date of the authorization of the out-of-district contracts. So officially, the motion is to option B. And what we need to do to take option B to make the recommendation or amend is we need to waive LAFCO rule number 1, section 1.8, subsection 10 for this action only. And what that is basically Keene's authority to make the final decision on this. We're waiving that authority only for this action today so that we can amend it. So to waive LAFCO Rule 1, Section 1.8, subsection 10, and amend the termination date of Mr. Simon's authorization of the out-of-boundary services by contract of Palomar Health with Vista Community Clinic and True Care from March 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2023, the end of this fiscal year. Therefore, Palomar services by contract with Vista Community Clinic and True Care are no longer authorized, this is just a contract, not that they can't go there, are no longer authorized as of June 30th, 2023. So, in order to be redundant many times, because I have to sink it into my own head, the end of the day, clinics can go wherever they want. Palomar just simply can't have the contracts based on a public health and safety finding that we can no longer validate. All I want to do is amend this specific approval. Nothing today about Keene's authority, nothing today about that at all. Just waive that section for this action. And again, my intent and focus is on the residents in North County. It really kind of saddens me when I hear both hospitals pointing fingers at each other. They did this, they did that. And it's just, come on, let's work together. Let's work together instead of the bickering. And I think, even though this isn't, maybe the greatest solution, but I do think this kind of gets it out of LAFCO's lap, and the clinics can go wherever they want. So anyway, that's my motion. I'll stop talking. Thank you very much. Mr. Willis.
Chair, I was wondering, Supervisor Cox, could you come up again? Because I wanted to ask you, you were in the thick of this, of the discussions, and I wanted to ask you, what did you see as a solution to this, as you were going through this? Did you come to any conclusions?
Do we have to open the public hearing again?
Oh, I guess so. It's open.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Well, again, number one, hold under supervisor, just Greg. I think, you've got 2 healthcare districts that have been around a long time that are providing great services within their district, but obviously this is an issue, and there's been other issues, I guess, over the years that have unfortunately pitted themselves against each other, and I think we all hate to see that. In fact, I think, Rocky Chavez, as chair of the Tri-City Board, the first comment he made, he was the first one who spoke, is that he was hopeful that things could be worked out, because the worst thing that could happen would be a waste of time and money to have this fight continue and go on into litigation potentially, and more delays. So my observation was, I think well spoken by your chair, that the reason this is before LAFCO is because of the contracts or the MOUs. And, you know, it gets back to the fact that these two community clinics that are both doing a great job in providing services to their clients, they're not subject to you folks here at LAFCO. They can go wherever they want to. And so consequently, it seemed to me the best solution would be to see if, and I think this motion may do that, but again, it opens the question whether there's going to be litigation. Representatives from Palomar indicated that they had, in their opinion, a solid legal opinion that says that this is not an issue that LAFCO has jurisdiction over. I think obviously the folks from Tri-City, you know, have a different opinion, and that kind of sets it up for potentially, you know, litigation going on, which doesn't serve anybody other than the attorneys that are involved. So I think that the best solution would be something that would either be done by Palomar to basically terminate the MOU or contracts that they have with both the community clinics, and if they want to have side agreements or continue to allow them to refer clients to Palomar, that's not an issue that LAFCO would have any jurisdiction under, as I understand it. And secondly, it may open up the opportunity for those two community clinics who I think feel constrained, and again, they kind of feel they're caught in the middle. That, you know, at this point they don't, I think, feel they can really talk with Tri-City because they are under agreements with Palomar. So maybe by either terminating on June 30th or having Palomar agree to terminate the contracts now and go into a side agreement, it may afford the opportunity for these two community clinics to go back to Tri-City and see if they can work out some sort of acceptable agreement to them and to Tri-City.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yes, Commissioner Becker.
Yes, I have some questions for our Commission Council. I know that we received a letter from Palomar Health District Special Counsel stating that options B and C in our staff report are defective. And so do you have any legal concerns with those options as well?
A typical lawyer answer, the devil's going to be in the details of what those options look like. I don't have any immediate concerns about the motion that's on the table right now.
Could you explain to me how the Commission waives Rule 10, or is it, I guess that's the appropriate way to say it, for just one meeting?
Since those are the Commission's own rules, it has it retains the ability to change those or waive any requirements as may be fit, and it can confine that to just one meeting.
But in this case, it almost sounds like you're waiving this retroactively, because the decision was made already, and now we're saying we're gonna waive that decision that was made, you know, back in October or whatever.
Actually, I think that the waiver is, as of this meeting, to consider, for purposes of considering the motion that's on the floor right now. So it's not a retroactive waiver, it's a waiver as of today to enable consideration of the motion that's on the floor.
Or just changing the end date, which just changed again prior to this meeting, that's all.
Exactly, but when you're waiving, as I understand it, we're waiving the executive officer's duty that he had to make the approval of the out-of-agency service agreement.
For purposes of today, for consideration of the motion that's on the floor, yes.
Okay, and to me that's retroactively because he's made that decision prior to this, but if you're our attorney and you're saying that it's appropriate to do that today.
Yeah, I don't have a concern about the motion as it's phrased that's on the floor.
Okay, and those were all my questions of you, but I do have some comments if this time is appropriate for me to do that. Okay, first I do want to thank everyone that came here today. I know this is an important decision, and there was a lot of emotion, and it did create a lot of consternation, I know, for so many in the community, and I am concerned about that. But my main concern when I look at this is that we do have a LAFCO policy, and that policy says that the executive officer shall have the duty to make the out-of-agency service agreement, and then simply to come and inform this commission, which was done. And that policy was met, And then the commission said, we'd like you to reconsider it. And to me, I think I was an alternate, I would have said that that was inappropriate. There was no authority to have this commission tell our executive officer to revisit that. But nonetheless, it was revisited, and we had a consultant, Mr. Adam Wilson, take a fresh look at this, and he also concluded that there was this public safety emergency. So, in my opinion, there was sufficient documentation in the record, both written and oral, to find that there was an actual public health and safety emergency. And today, I actually found Fernando Sanuno and Dr. Russell's testimony from Tri-City and Vista Clinic very, very compelling. And this is the same type of testimony that was given to our EO, our executive officer, and I see why it was believed back then, and there's no reason to not believe it today. There's no clear evidence that the decision was unreasonable, and so there's no authority for us to overturn that. There's also no reason that we should amend that decision. For me, I think terminating this at the end of those contracts in 2025 still gives a lot of time for the parties to get together and negotiate. And this is what they need to do, and I'm hopeful that they will. They can work this out among themselves, but for me, I do not want to disregard the LAFCO stated policy. For us to disregard the policy, I think it needs to be a really extraordinary circumstance that it's going to be a slippery slope if we start disregarding the policies, and not to mention if we start undermining our own executive officer. So I do believe that going forward, if you want to go ahead and revisit the policy and that, in that respect, give the commission the authority to overrule or amend those decisions. So I would respectfully make a substitute motion that we receive notice and take no further action.
We technically don't have a motion on the
We don't
floor
really
because
have a
there was no
motion yet.
second.
Yeah, because there was no second. Okay. Any other, Mr. Mayor White?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. I have a couple of questions. I understand your motion was to waive the authority. Are there any guidelines or specifics to when the commission is allowed to do that and when it is not?
My understanding, and I guess I don't know, our attorney maybe could answer this better.
Either one,
but,
yeah.
But I'll take a stab. It's our policy. It's not an ordinance. It's not a law. It's our policy, and we can at any time waive our policy when we see fit. We do it a lot on the Board of Supervisors for certain things, and even though we have certain policies, but there's circumstances sometimes that allow us to. So it's our policy. We can change it, and it becomes effective immediately when we do that.
Understood. My next question is, I understand you're saying that the health emergency may have now shifted to the other party, but at that time, at the time of executive officers signing this deal, was there a health and safety emergency at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Even if we were to waive the authority of the executive officer today, does that nullify the contracts that they've already signed with Palomar?
No, the only thing, the action we take is the approval for whether Palomar has the approval to provide services outside its boundaries. So the effect that has on the contracts is not what's before you. It's that particular action.
Understood. Thank you.
And just Palomar can provide the services. They just can't have a contract to provide the services. So they can still do it. The contract's the issue. Get rid of the contract and we're done. It's kind of it. That's the only reason we're doing that. So anyway, and I apologize to keep jumping in here, but I've been living this for 3 or 4 months. Okay.
Yes, Joe.
Well, I have a comment, and it came from Adam Wilson's report here. It basically says any entity that exists to provide services eventually will cease to exist if they continue down a path towards fiscal insolvency. If said services or healthcare services, catastrophic impacts are imminent, if said services cannot be provided due to lack of funding. My opinion is that if you're not, and I took this to heart and apply it to the fact that what we've heard here, and it doesn't take a CPA to figure out if you've lost a revenue component of your business, that you're going to have some kind of a fiscal impact. You're going to have to cut someplace else. And I didn't see any financials from the clinics, so I don't know whether that 500,000 was a bottom line or whether that was out of a expense center. I don't know how they keep their books, so it's hard to determine whether that 500,000 was in fact directly attributed and could be determined in looking at their financials, whether that was coming out of their model of having doctors provide services there at Palomar or not. And depending on which way this goes, whether it goes with moving forward with what we have before us and do with I think the contracts are separate entities. They have been married up together with the latter date being the amended approval. I think they should have, each one of them have their separate end dates if your motion ever gets a second and it's approved. So that's my comment. Also, if you're looking at, and you want to go through what our policies or rules are under 1.8.10, where it gives the executive officer the authority, he can administratively approve out-of-service contracts if all conditions of approval have been met in accordance with Government Code Section 56-133. And 56-133 basically states that they have to come to the commission and submit an application before entering into contracts, not as an afterthought. So I would look there that they did not meet all the requirements under 56-133. And also part of that section also says that there is a process in approving common service contracts under a health and emergency situation, and that is for within the commission. And then about halfway through that section, it says unless the commission has delegated that authority to the executive officer. We have delegated that authority to our executive officer by way of, in my opinion, by way of this policy. And maybe that is something we need to look at in the future. And we have 4 new commissioners on board. And what the commission that sat 4 years ago, which was a very stable commission, we didn't have any newbies on there. They may have had one opinion of this, and another commission had another. And I think if nothing else, that when we go forward and revise or relook at this policy, that this be a standing agenda item of the first meeting. Are we going to delegate any and all emergencies to the executive officer without first coming through the commission? Or do we say what type? I think we're all in agreement, if you've got a septic system that is failing, and the city of Escondido requires within a year, requires the property to annex, I think that's a given. But where we don't
I think that's something we can look at further
we don't have the full,
down the line.
We don't have the full information, and we haven't been given that full information on what we are supposedly deciding that there was a health and safety issue, and it was financial.
I have one.
Yes.
I think that's the point, is that this was delegated to the executive officer. We're not here today to look at financial records and make our decision, because it's not up to us. Our policy has given that to our executive officer. And so he has made that decision. I do feel like we should support that decision, and it was an emergency. We all agree to that, and that's why I think that it was given to the executive officer, because these decisions are, by their very nature, something that needs to be decided. It's an emergency. So if there is changes to that policy that need to be made, I'm happy to do that too at a later meeting. But we're not here today to look at finances and try to make that decision again. It's already been made, and the policy's been met, and I do think it's reasonable to assume that the parties will have time to discuss this.
Can I ask?
Mr. Willis.
Holly, so I wanted to just confirm, according to our own code, we are able to waive the decision of the executive officer.
We don't have a written issue, so, but according to the principles as outlined by the chair making the motion, that would be the basis for it. So we don't have a written rule. Either way, it's silent.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And I want to thank Keen and Carol Ann for the presentation today. Thank you to the representatives from Palomar and Tri-Cities and the clinics who have been here today and shared their perspectives on this. And to everybody else, really appreciate all that the many healthcare professionals in this room do for our communities. I respect Chair Desmond's effort to really identify what is in the best interests of the residents of District 5 and his constituents, and the view that the situation has changed since the decision was initially made. And I also share the view that it is unfortunate that we're in this place where the districts are at odds. Since the motion did not receive a second, I am going to go ahead then and offer a motion for option A and explain my thinking. As has been brought up, this commission's policy, our policy, gives the executive officer discretion in determining whether a threat to public health or safety exists. So the question to me is whether his exercise of discretion here was reasonable at the time that he made it. I guess reasonable people can have different perspectives on what's reasonable, but personally I don't find that the executive officer's action was unreasonable. He is not alone in his view. We've heard from others who share his view. Specifically, the CEO of Vista Community Clinic testified this morning that they did not have enough doctors to cover all shifts, and that constituted a threat to public health. We heard from the Chief Medical Officer of TrueCare, who told us that, in her words, it was becoming an unsafe condition. We heard from the Mayor of Oceanside, who expressed similar sentiments. So based upon the representations that were made to the executive officer by the requesting parties, I think that his action based on those representations would at least be considered reasonable. So since the commission gives the executive officer discretion, since the decision was not unreasonable in my mind, my initial vote here and my motion will be to take no action related to the administrative approval. Thank you very much, Chair.
I'll second that motion. I'd like to also comment that I appreciate everybody who came forward and spoke today, and I understand this is a very complicated issue. But if we want to change the policy moving forward, we need to take this on as a board and make that decision. I think there are a lot of my colleagues have made great points about that. But going back and rethinking everything on Monday is not the best way to run a football team. And so I would suggest that moving forward, we revisit that policy.
Do you have any other comments?
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Okay.
Since we have two separate contracts here, they've both been married up till March 1, 2025. I'd like to bifurcate those contracts and do an amended approval where the Vista Community Clinic has an end date of 10/16/2024, and True Care has an end date of the contract of 3/1/2025, which is what their contracts each say. So my opinion is that these should be bifurcated, not lumped in to the furthest one out.
Okay. There's a motion on that. Mr. Whitburn.
I am not an attorney. I guess I would ask our counsel whether it is within the purview of this commission to make amendments to contracts.
Well, this is an amendment to the contract. The contract gives it gives the date of when it's entered into. They have the dates here. The effective date's October 16th, 2021 for Vista Community Clinic. I'm not amending anything. I'm asking that the approval that was given on February 23rd, 2023, which married the two contracts together with an end date of the longest contract being the end date. All I'm saying is Vista Community has a different end date, and True Care Clinic has an end date according to their contract.
But what you're doing is going to option B. You're amending the administrative approval.
That's the only part that I would be amending.
But we don't have the authority to amend his prior approval. That's the only thing. It makes sense, but right now we have.
Well, this was an amendment to the original.
I know, but it's still an amendment. So are you opting for
amendment to
option
the amendment?
B?
I don't think either one. Let's see.
That would be an amendment, and that would be for 6B, because that's an amendment. So you're amending.
I'll do D.
Okay. What do you got for D?
Because I think we're stuck, and that is my word. We are stuck with LAFCO staff's decision, but he amended his decision, his original decision, with that letter on February of this year.
So I think another way to consider it is, as far as the contract with True Care, you're suggesting option A, receive no action. As far as the contract with Vista Community Care, you're saying the only change is to amend the end date to align with that contract's end date. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to accomplish, yes.
Just to clarify for the commission, that's what so your motion, you could achieve it different ways, but it's to move option A for Tri-City and move to amend the approval, but only as to Vista Community Service and only as to align the end date of the approval with the end date of the contract, which is October, whatever the date you gave.
Yeah, October 16th. All I'm doing is aligning the end date with the contract that's already been signed, sealed, and delivered.
I'll second that, but I just want to clarify. My motion does not change Keene's decision. The only change is the end date of the contract. It doesn't say he made a mistake. It doesn't say it was wrong. It actually accepts his decision, but only changes the end date, which is what this motion is also doing, is changing the end date and just moving it to the
Right, Chair.
Yes.
So we had a motion and a second. Do we not have to vote on that now?
Yes, well, we have discussion. If there's any further discussion, we can take that.
Anyway,
Well,
if it doesn't pass, then go ahead, Paul, I'm sorry.
actually,
No, the
Joe made a
substitute
substitute
motion- the
motion,
substitute
which
motion
was seconded,
is what
so
was seconded.
that is the one that should be voted on first. And that motion, again, and let me know if this is correct, but let me just restate for the record, is Commissioner McKenzie is moving to receive and make no changes as to the recent decision regarding the True Care contract, and to receive and make one change as to the Vista contract, and that is to align the end date of the approval under 56133 for that one to be 3 years from October 16, 2021.
So we're voting on that one now? It was
Yeah,
a
there's been a
second.
motion and a second on the substitute. The substitute gets voted on first. So there's no further discussion. We have everyone, please vote. This is on the substitute motion of accepting, just changing the one date on the, of one of the contracts to basically the terms of the contract.
Okay, please cast your votes. So I have 4 yeses. Desmond, Becker, McKenzie, and Mathis. And then I have 4 noes. Anderson, White, Whitburn, and Willis.
So it's a tie. All right, that one didn't carry then.
It did not carry.
That did
The
not
motion.
carry. So now we'll go to the first motion, which is 6A, entirely Keene's decision on that, for 6A. So if there's no other discussion, please vote.
So I have 5 yeses for option A. Anderson, Becker, White, Whitburn, and Mathis. And I have 3 noes. Desmond, McKenzie, and Willis. The motion passes.
All right, well, thank you everyone for being here today. Appreciate all the hard work and effort. And thanks, Commission, for your time. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? Okay, so we're going to move on to 6C. This is our proposed work plan and budget for 2023-24. Keene, you want to take us out?
I will. So thank you, Chair and Commission. So before the membership is a collective request that you start the game plan for the upcoming fiscal year, and that means consider approving a work plan to direct LAFCO resources, and then separately, but certainly relatedly, approve a budget to fund those directed resources. Now keep in mind, Commission, that both of these items are coming to you in draft or proposed form, and so whatever actions you take today, start a process in which we reach out to our funding agencies, we have 77 of them, and get their comments, and then ultimately come back to you as part of another noticed hearing in May for final dispositions. So with respect to the work plan, as we detail in the agenda report, it largely represents a status quo, okay, in that it continues to reflect 30 priority projects that combine both old and new activities. Examples of the old, we have some municipal service reviews lingering along the State 78 corridor, and then we have a couple of new projects, including tackling some long overdue personnel policy updates that have been on our mind for some while. So if you could go ahead and actually, because my memory's not that good, put up the work plan and we can look at it together. So in the work plan, you're focusing in on 2 things, Commission. Not only the 30 projects that we've identified, but the priority order in which we've placed them. So again, perhaps you like a project, but you think that the priority order should go down or up, depending on your preferences. I wanted to point out a couple of new additions to our top 10, right? And our top 10 is the high priority category. And that involves number 8, proceeding forward, correct, with an MSR on the healthcare districts. And of course, this ties to a degree to the conversation we just had at 6B. And what we, among other things, we learned in that discussion is that there are certainly some dynamics in North County, but elsewhere, there are 2 other healthcare districts where I think it's appropriate that LAFCO dive in agnostically and get a better sense of what are the level and availability of medical hospital services and community needs. And then through your LAFCO hat, do what you're supposed to do. Sync up boundaries and sync up spheres of influence as you see fit. So that's number 8. Number 10 is something that we've talked about in recent MSRs, and it actually affects 2 of our commissioners here with us today. And that is, let's go forward and get going on this governance study for the Escondido region, right? And so over the last few years, we have, and through different divisions, completed a multi-year service review that covered all of the agencies in the Escondido region. And one of the common themes that came out of that document, or those documents, is, you know, LAFCO has a role to play in terms of seeing if it makes sense for the city of Escondido and Rincon del Diablo Municipal Water District to explore consolidation opportunities. And now those come in the form of certainly functional, right, shared resources, joint power authorities, but also political, i.e. literally combining the 2. And perhaps, and this is just kind of an academic comment for the purposes of the commission today, whether it makes sense for Rincon to be transitioned into a subsidiary district of the city of Escondido. And the reason why these are all comments that are relevant to the commission is, A, your charge and statute, and B, looking at the ground, and you have a city and a district who have overlapping boundaries and overlapping service functions when it comes to water, wastewater, and fire protection. So I wanted to highlight number 8 and number 10 in our top 10 list. Certainly staff is ready to speak about all of the other projects, 30 in total, that we have targeted for the upcoming fiscal year. But let's now talk about the budget. So we can go to the next page or next slide. And so, somewhat like the proposed work plan, the proposed budget before you also has some status quo features, but in all honesty, it does have some enhancements that break it out of that status quo model. In particular, what staff is proposing for the commission is that you increase our bottom line expense number with respect to operating expenses by about 13%. And that 13% would mean LAFCO would go from an operating expense this year of a little less than 2.1 million, and we'd go to a little less than 2.3 million next year. So the difference of about $260,000. Now, what does that $250,000 by the people in the commission? Well, about 4 distinct things, right? So first and foremost, you'd be accommodating a pre-approved cost of living adjustment that the commission took action on last year. This is the second of a 3-year CPI adjustment. This year's adjustment is 2.75, and that matches what the County of San Diego is doing. Second, we are providing additional monies for our communication services, and in doing so, kind of meeting the challenge that the commission has taken in policy over the last year to really improve our community engagement activities. We are also adding some money to our professional services because, like the item that you just experienced and others that will soon be coming before you, the proposals are getting more nuanced and challenging, not less, and certainly having the ability to tap the expertise of outside consultants and get some additional legal assistance is a good and merited thing. And then last but not least, probably about 4/5 of the overall proposed increase to our budget would accommodate increasing the LAFCO staffing from 8 full-time positions to 9. And in particular, staff, your executive officer, is requesting that we rebudget the assistant executive officer position. This is something that the commission had budgeted for years. However, since 2013, it has remained vacant. Staff believes for two particular reasons the time is right to rebudget that position. First and foremost, we need the added capacity to address not only the work plan in terms of making a better dent in our annual activities, but the reality is anytime we get controversial projects or projects that require some extra time, Ballbrook Rainbow, perhaps OTI 13, it limits our ability to keep going on the work plan. There's only so much capacity we have. So the capacity addition of this position is certainly on your executive officer's mind, and then certainly organizationally, it provides some needed horizontal and vertical opportunities for existing staff to move up with their professional development while we get to keep them here at LAFCO. So I know that we already have one question or raised hand, so that in broad strokes is the proposed work plan and budget. We've detailed it in the agenda report. Staff is ready to go into some details. Whatever you approve today will ultimately come back to you in final form in about 60 days. So Chair, I'm ready to tackle some questions.
Commissioner Willis, you got a question?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry, can you just clarify? Did you say the ninth position is part-time now?
No, it would be full-time.
No, but I mean, it's part-time. You want it to be full-time. It's
So
part-time.
right now, it's not budgeted at all. We're at,
Oh, not
excuse me,
budgeted at
we're
all.
at 8 full-time. I'm asking that we increase funding to accommodate one more to get to 9.
But is that going to be then budgeted at the assistant level versus an analyst
Yes.
position?
Yes.
Okay, more money, okay.
Do we have any other questions or a motion?
No, I have one comment. I would
Okay.
like to see that number 8, the healthcare district's MSR, probably be moved up to number 6, because I think the other 5 are important in their numbers, and I would like to see that healthcare moved up and just the other bottom 4 moved on down.
Does that cause much?
We've already done half the work.
Certainly a large extent. So yes, as I understood the motion, so we would move the healthcare district MSR, which is currently identified as number 8, place it at number 6. Number 6 would revert to 7. Number 7 would revert to 8.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a noticed hearing, and I don't know if we have anyone in the audience or called in, but we should check.
Do we have any speakers on this item? Tammy?
I have no speaker slips.
And no anybody online or emails or anything on this one?
I have nothing for item 6C.
Okay. We have any other questions? Yes, Mr. Anderson.
You had mentioned community engagement as part of the budget improvement. What would that look like, and what are you thinking?
So there's a couple of areas. One is about a year ago, the commission adopted policies on social media as well as translation activities. So, for example, anytime we do something, we need to make sure that if there's a household number that exceeds a certain percent, that we provide and we get a professional translator to translate the documents or be available at hearings. And then social media, that isn't necessarily a staff cost, but it is a staff time in making sure that we're looking at our posts, that we're keeping up. And then last but not least, I anticipate at your next meeting, we were going to have it at this meeting, but we didn't want to overstack it. We're going to bring back our policy update on service reviews, and as part of that, a commitment on our end to go out to the councils, the boards, and set up community workshops on these service reviews so we can hopefully inform the process before people come to the dais.
When will we have the apportionment document?
So the apportionment document will come to you with the final version. And again, that would be in May, and that's something the county auditor's staff produces for your commission.
Okay, but this document is going out to all 77?
Yes. So we know what the apportionment is for the county. We know what the apportionment is for the city of San Diego. The other 75 funding agencies is going to be based on the auditor tallying up general tax revenues for the most recent year and apportioning them as a percent. That number isn't available to us yet.
Okay, because my thought process is there'll probably be minimal, if no, comments on this until they find out how much they have to pay.
Correct. But they certainly have thoughts, and we have a cities and special district advisory committee meeting set up for March 17th. One of the items will be this proposed budget and work plan, however the commission tweaks it. And at that point, the committee certainly will have comments, and it will be up to the individual members, though, if they want to provide other comments. But we'll hear from those who are actively engaged with LAFCO through the city managers and then the special district general managers.
I would just like to point out one thing. Item number 10 directly affects the city of Escondido, obviously, and unless Commissioner Drake thinks otherwise, at this point, the current administration of the city would probably drop that in priority.
And I concur. I think that there's a sense of readiness that the city would like to have. Rincon has no particular opinion either way, and that would be fine.
And I did check with the city manager, who said at some point we should have that conversation, but now it's just not the time.
So you recommending to take it off the list entirely, or put it
off the top 10, and
Okay.
maybe reprioritize something else?
on number 11?
Sure.
Okay. So I guess we would wait for you to come back and say, okay, we're ready to start to tackle this.
Yeah, so the value of the category, so if it's in the top 10, we're going to spend staff resources on it without a doubt. If it drops out of that top 10, it becomes a question of, what's next up in line. So perhaps if Commissioner McKenzie is agreeable to her own, to add to her own suggestion that you just give direction to staff to move the Escondido region study out of the top 10 and find an appropriate replacement and bring that back to the commission in May.
That would be my recommendation.
I concur.
And I would recommend you look at the RCDs because they are doing out-of-service contracts, MOUs.
I think we have a replacement then for number 10.
That's true. Another one to tackle.
So I'll make a motion to go with the word plan with that amendment. Okay. To bump Escondido out of number 10.
And then to move item 8 to number, what was it? 6.
7.
So, okay, 8, so 8 goes ahead of.
8 goes to 6, 6 goes to 7.
Okay.
Chair Jim Desmond?
Yes.
Just a brief question on responsibilities and boundaries. Obviously in healthcare, it's very complex. We've got public districts, and we've got Kaiser, we've got Scripps, and they all provide some component to the context of healthcare. And obviously some of that we just don't touch. So I'm kind of curious how we're going to do an MSR, especially with all of these other components there. And in fact, the location of the Palomar Hospital is there specifically. It was intended to prevent Kaiser from getting into San Marcos, but it didn't work, so there they are. So obviously these decisions are made for complicated reasons. I just wonder what our boundaries are.
So the boundaries, and that is a good question, Commissioner Drake. The boundaries for LAFCO, I should say the scope of LAFCO is specific to the 4 healthcare districts you have in the county. However, the law is somewhat loose-ended when it says commissions, every 5 years or so you are to produce and prepare municipal service reviews. The charge is to evaluate comprehensively public services. So there is a correlation certainly for LAFCO staff to at least do our best to document what private providers are doing, especially if it's in relationship to one of the 4 districts. But there are some real, if not glass boundaries we'll have to navigate.
It's a good point because Kaiser actually contracts their OBGYN to Palomar. And so it's very complicated between how those boundaries work. The other issue is, I'm not sure how you guys felt, but I felt like a blind referee refereeing a boxing match, and we couldn't see what was going on. I mean, the concept of jumbo shrimp and audit and healthcare come together directly. They're just total oxymorons. No one knows how the financing of healthcare works. And so I'm not sure how much veracity we're going to get or how we have to ask the questions about what are the economic health issues as well as the resultant efficacy
of healthcare is for these organizations. I assume you have some consultants in mind, or many.
We certainly have, among others, Chris Cate, former member of the commission, who will be able to help us with the districts, because districts still have to produce governmental accounting standard financial statements. But one of the questions, I think it was with Commissioner Anderson, asked a similar. I think it would be appropriate, and part of the reason why I asked for a little more funding for the professional services is maybe there's a retired healthcare administrator who could just provide some helpful insights to the things we should think about.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Did we get a second on that?
I made the motion with the amendments.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Willis, a second by Commissioner McKenzie. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Please vote. Uh-oh. Now? Okay.
We still making the bugs up?
I pushed it.
They're a little
I pushed it.
temperamental.
Did Commissioner Becker switch hers with yours?
I realize you can see a little okay at the top.
Ah.
Done a good job.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. That was 6C. We're going to move to the consent calendar. The consent calendar, we got 7 items on the consent agenda today. Is there any items anyone would like to pull or make comments on? Any commissioners on the consent calendar? Seeing none. I'm going to just make a quick comment on 5F. This is the notice of a planning grant award to study agricultural trends and market conditions. This was a grant application that was put forward by LAFCO and the county joined on board on that. So great job to staff. Priscilla, thank you for putting that together and successful grant application. Agriculture is extremely important in the East County, and so I'm excited that that you were awarded the full amount of $500,000. So I just ask that we make sure when we go forward with this, we bring in the Farm Bureau and the actual farmers who work on this. They're the ones that are experiencing and struggling day to day. So my office is always able to assist. So I have to say thank you, great job, staff and Priscilla on 5F. With that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Sarah?
Second.
All right, I heard a second from Madam McKenzie down there first. Any other discussion, questions? No? Okay, please vote. This is on the consent.
Mackenzie, please vote.
This is above my pay grade.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, next is 7B. We already did 7A. We reappointed Mr. Mathis. 7B is, this will be just as much fun. This is the options to hold regular meetings and possible action. So I don't know if you got a presentation on this or it's a pick and choose.
No presentation. It's simply staff has come up with 3 options for the commission to consider with respect to going forward. The first Monday of the month at 8 a.m., the second Friday of the month at 12 p.m., and the second Wednesday of the month at 1 p.m. Those options can be accommodated here at 1600 Pacific Avenue. Not necessarily all in this room. We might have to go to the board chambers or into room 402, but we know we can meet here in this building.
And this is primarily to move this meeting to a different date and time. I think it's the city of San Diego did us this favor.
And I would apologize for that. The city of San Diego changed the time of its city council meetings last year such that it now meets Mondays and Tuesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I know how difficult it is to reconcile schedules, so sorry for the hassle, everybody. Thank you for your indulgence.
I'll make a motion that we do the first Monday of the month starting at dark 30 8 o'clock. I think we've been doing Mondays. I think most of us are kind of programmed, those have been on here, Mondays or Monday. And otherwise, I'll have to resign because I have board meeting on Wednesdays, and I am in Sacramento all but all of those days on the second Friday representing LAFCO at either Cal LAFCO or the California Special Districts Association.
I'll second that because that's Monday's the only ones that work for me as well. Well, when you're getting up that early in the morning, have a picture of Mr. Whitburn in your closet, whatever. No. Is there any other I mean, there's plenty of time for this.
When would this take effect?
Immediately, albeit, I was going to mention at this next item, April meeting may be canceled, but certainly going forward through the rest of the year, whatever you choose today would be the date and time we'd go forward with.
So April's going to be canceled?
No, that was just a rumor right now. He says it may be, but we don't know. So moving forward, it would take effective immediately, I guess, to answer your question.
We have a second, so
Okay, is there any other discussion or choices or options? Anybody feel one way or the other? All right, please vote.
Repeat that list again, please.
First Monday of the month.
The motion is Monday, 8 o'clock.
At 8 a.m.
Yeah, I know.
First.
What are the other options?
12 noon on Friday.
So it would be the other options are the second Friday of the month, and I see you have Eric helping, but just for the record, so first Monday of the month at 8 a.m. is option 1, and that is the one that has been motioned and seconded by Chair or Commissioner McKenzie and Chair Desmond. The second option is second Friday of the month at 12 p.m. and the second Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are you ready for a vote? Yes, okay.
We are ready.
You know the best part of all, you have a 10 o'clock start out.
We have eight in favor, 0 opposed, the motion passes.
Thank you,
Okay. All right. So next, the executive chair report. We're back in order on the agenda. So.
Very good. Just quickly, staff does have some key meetings coming up. In particular, on March 17th, we are due to go to our city's advisory committee and our special district advisory committee. Both will be televised live, and as part of that, those two meetings, we are going to bring our staff report, not with a recommendation, but the full report on the Fallbrook and Rainbow reorganization items. So you will certainly hear discussion of that as we approach that date. Just for the benefit of playing out the timeline, staff then is going to take the comments we receive from the cities and special districts and hold a meeting with the ad hoc committee, which you created a few years ago, which is the subject agencies and some general at-large members, for them to look at and formally provide me a recommendation, and then I'm going to bring that to you for the commission to start taking up at our June meeting. As part of this, because we have these items with the advisory committees and we don't have any pressing public hearing needs for April, I will work with the chair, but just so it doesn't surprise anyone, we may ask that the chair cancel the April, I think it's the 1st meeting, but that, I'm just saying it's 50-50 right now if we hold the April meeting, and I will follow up with the chair's office on that.
I got just a question then. When do you is that when you think Fallbrook and Rainbow might be coming to our having that hearing?
I anticipate the June meeting you will start the hearing.
Of what year?
23. Fingers crossed.
Good question.
Because we thought it was going to be last fall, and it's going to be, Okay, so it's anticipated now for June, so no vacations. All right, in June. But okay, thank you very much. Next item, item 9. What is this one? Commissioner announcements. Any requests for future items or announcements from the board? Commissioners? No. Closed session? We have none. Hallelujah. Okay, so our next meeting Maybe April 1st, it may not be, but I guess stay tuned and let's get that out at least 2 weeks prior to April 1st and have a decision on that so we can make plans
So
with changes.
why April and not May?
Yeah, I'm sorry, why April, in terms of canceling the meeting?
Yeah, as opposed to May.
Well, we don't have any public hearing items, at least not to my knowledge, that are urgent right now, but in May, we certainly will have at least the hearing item, and I believe we have a Cummings Ranch project in Ramona that are all synced up for that date. So we do have, I know we have business to conduct in May that is time sensitive. I don't know if we have time sensitive in April.
Okay.
So we'll know March 15th, how's that?
By the end of this week.
By the end of this week, if there's an April meeting or not,
Yes.
so.
So there's nothing on the May meeting that could be moved to the April meeting?
No.
This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.